Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Race Rep Interviews. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Earthen Race Rep Interview. I'm here with our Earthen Race Rep. Welcome in. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and please introduce yourself.
Hey there, I'm Rufaic. I'm the Earthen Race Rep. I am one of the few Earthen you'll find around here, but I think they're pretty neat.
They are pretty neat, and we need a lot more of them, that is for sure. What made you choose Earthen as your race?
I played dwarves for a very embarrassingly long time, but I really enjoyed the Titan aspect of all of them. So, stone dwarves is absolutely up my alley, and, well, gave me the option. It's about time.
That is true. We have been waiting for a while. um, so being that you have been a dwarf role player for a long time, and the stone dwarfs were something that really drew your interest. Why don't you kind of tell us how that maybe worked its way into making you passionate about the earthen, and kind of expand on what makes you passionate about the earthen?
So, the most interesting thing I ever found about the dwarves of WoW, beyond them just being, great dwarves in general, was this obsession with the Titans that they had back in Classic. They bricked everything else and went all in on these Titan stuff. And we get, Brand the Explorers League, and it's sometimes just silly stuff. It's like, oh, don't hit the world-ending button for the 18th time. But I always thought the Titans were pretty cool. There's all these unknowable gods out there that have all this cool tech we left behind. And they made the dwarves by extension. So I really loved all that. A long time ago, I want to say in the BFA and Shadowlands era, I ran a very long campaign for the Mead Hall community, originally on Warmaster Court at the time, that had us actually rebuilding Titan Keepers, or attempting. We attempted to resurrect Tyr a couple expansions before it was cool. It went horribly, of course, but it was just this culmination of my character and a couple others' single-minded obsession about the Titans and how much better things could be if they just came back and took care of stuff. It never works out that way, and I'm certain it won't if that stuff actually does come to happen. But, the Earthen have a lot to do with the Titans more directly than the Dwarves do. They have a very long quest line in the War Within regarding rebelling against the Titans and, almost getting stomped out by giant machines coming from the sea, which is all very cool. I think it's pretty awesome. I hope the Titans aren't, one-note bad guys when they show up eventually, but hey, until then, I'm gonna hope for the best.
So true. Hopefully they're not gonna just come by and be like, "We're gonna hit that button again," because I'm kind of tired of it being, "Let's hit the big red button." Um, And yeah, a lot of times we do see the Titans in games. Things seem to go south pretty quick whenever we interact with them, whether it's, during the Antorus raid or in Ulduar and all this other stuff, the story with Loken and everything. But I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot with them and have been enjoying it quite a bit. And, I'm hoping in Last Titan we get a lot more neat lore on the Titans and we see them in a more interesting dynamic than what we've been getting, and hopefully they come back, and then they'll probably bring along Illidan too, because he's in the pantheon still, I guess.
There,
Um,
there are some things I would like to see the Titans back. I'm okay if Illinois doesn't show up again, but that's just me.
and that is totally okay. Now, the Earthen got released with a decent amount of classes, but if they could be any class from any game, it doesn't have to be World of Warcraft. It could be like any like tabletop role play game, MMORPG, JRPG. What class would you like to see them get, and why?
Well, I would love to see them get druids. They had all of the Freysworn stuff, or apparently shaman, I guess, but it would just be so beautiful to see that followed up with all the weird mushroom stuff going out there. I'd love to see some rock animals, like we have the Ramoliths and all that sort of stuff going on out there. But, Dwarf Druid is something I've been praying for a long time anyway. So that really just continued on into the Earthen when they came out. It'd just be beautiful to finally have some nice bearded animals to play as.
I feel like the Freysworn, they kind of like dropped the ball on them, right? Because they like scattered them around the Isle of Dorn and you can't interact with them. You could only like hover over them, and they're just in all these different spots, and they're like out of commission, and it's
Yeah,
just a
there's a couple
mystery.
all over. Some hidden ones too, like part of puzzle toys or stuff. But there's a couple that are interactable, and they're always portrayed as like the outsider.
Hmm.
There's a couple in Dornegal with guards watching them, saying, "Hey, they're allowed to be here, but we're on them." And there's a little quest chain with them. The big mushroom area in southern Dornegal. I can't remember the name of it now. Has a little quest chain with the like head Freysworn person eventually deactivating while researching the stuff. I thought it was really cool, but then we never got anything more about them. And I guess they're shaman, even though they're doing all this druidy stuff. That line's always been blurred.
Hopefully, in the future, they will get expanded upon, whether it's in game or maybe in a book or a little lore post on the forums or the website with a comic like Blizzard's been doing lately. But they definitely need to touch up and like give us more Freysworn stuff for sure. Ramolith forms would be awesome for Earth and Druids. Like they're already sick, so being able to like run
Oh, yeah.
around as those would be epic. Now, of all of the Forsaken characters in lore, which one is your favorite?
For the earthen characters, I don't like any of the Forsaken. They're all stinky. Uh, the earthen, I really like High Speaker Brinth. She's the one that has the like Doc Ock arms going on. Do a good bit with her in the main questing. But I think she's interesting because she is a face of the new earthen, adapting to how it all changed with what the player does. But I really enjoyed the follow-up quests to the campaign with the archives, as she's trying to figure out how to get all of their memories back. And it's never actually resolved. We learn more about their past, but we don't actually see the Earthen able to recover any of their memories. And she is just absolutely livid about it. And it's very interesting. I really hope they pick that up and keep running with it. Because that would be a great character point for my character or a lot of other Earthen.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Blizzard needs to keep running with, and I hope that they keep doing it, especially with a lot of the Earthen characters, because we do get to see a lot of them, obviously, within the War Within, but then, like, nothing really continues.
I counted a whole 2 Earthen so far this X-Pack. I am hopeful given some data mining stuff I've seen, but I'm not counting any chickens till they've hatched.
We're just gonna fingers crossed and hope for the best. But a great pick for your lore character. I really enjoyed the like what was it, head storm rider that like sacrificed himself outside the
Ailgrim,
brewery.
yeah.
Yeah. That
He's a real
was
good dude.
that was a crazy scene. I was watching that and I was like, no way did Blizzard just do this to me right now. uh, this leads me to the race specific question that we ask at the end of every interview. So this one's going to be Earth and specific. This one's actually a bit more serious than some of them I've asked so far. So hopefully you have something for this.
Okay.
Some Earthen decide to go to one special place when they cease operations, so they can admire the view forevermore. Where would your Earthen go for their final moments, and what would be the vibe of their final pose? Sad, comedic, melancholic, etc.
So there's a pair of statues in the Isle of Dorn. It's the Watcher of the North, and I think the Watcher of the South. They're a pair of storm riders, I believe. I know the Watcher of the North absolutely is. And they pretty much turned off on top of mountains looking from the north or from the south. And it's a very stoic, very. It's a little bit sad because they're alone for the rest of their time, at least, until they get hauled back down to the Awakening Machine now. But I think something similar to that is probably what I would do for my character. He's a he's a rock dude. He's pretty stoic. Doesn't move too quickly. He's very slow to react and very certain once he does. I think someplace quiet, but looking off into the distance, looking forward when everything is finally at an end.
Very, very good pick. And yeah, I guess with the Awakening Machine, like they could kind of go and grab all those Earthen now and start waking them up again, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they have one of them, I think, on like southern southwest like border of Donegal has a caretaker that's like, oh yeah, we're wheeling them in. The ones that can be fixed, if
Yeah,
they're too far gone, you can't really put them back together. But if it's just a
that's it.
battery problem, they can handle that.
Well, Rafaic, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
You too. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Zandalari Race Rep interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. Welcome in. I have the Zandalari Race Rep here with me. Please introduce yourself.
Howdy, howdy. Pleasure to be here. I am Vokatan. Yes, the R in the name is silent when you actually pronounce it. Otherwise known as Molestris Starblossom over on Blue Sky. I'm very happy to be here.
I am very happy that I didn't try and pronounce your name at the start and immediately say the R. So I'm glad to know that that R is silent.
Yeah,
uh,
it's mostly an accent thing when he speaks. So,
that does make a lot of sense. Now, what made you choose Zandalari as your race?
so when I was first starting to get into the throes of RP on the Horde side, as I'm mostly an Alliance RPer, I took a lot of time to just kind of delve into the different histories of all those races, and the Zandalari stuck out in particular to me just due to how ancient they are. Most of the time, when it comes to different fantasy literature and other such media, I am just very big on stuff that is insanely old. And the fact that, streets of Zuldazar being ancient by the time the human race in WoW was young is an energy that I just immediately latched onto, and I've been in love with them ever since.
Yeah, I mean that mystery of like their like ancientness, I guess, kind of makes things very interesting. And like just like you, Zandalari have always like pulled me into their like lore and the interest around them, even though we didn't know much about them for a long time. And then like they pop up in Pandaria, and you're like, oh my god, it's the Zandalari. And then like everything just went up for them, right? Like they got new models and everything. We got Zandalar, all this. We finally got to see King like Rastakhan and everything. So been pretty crazy, and I hope we get a lot more. They are great. One of my favorite races to play on the Horde.
Hmm.
Speaking of like all of that like ancient rich lore and awesomeness that they have, it sounds like a lot of that kind of is what makes you passionate about them. So why don't you expand on what makes you passionate about the Zandalari?
So, aside from just how old and ancient this culture and these people are, the other thing that really stuck out to me was their connection to the Loa. And to not do it like to say that the other troll tribes don't have as strong of a connection, but the way that the Zandalari present it, at the very least, in the fights that we have with them in game and the visuals that they get compared to a lot of the other troll tribes up until recently with Midnight and the Amani, I'd say it's always been this grandiose, empowered feel. Like you look at a Zandalari and how they're dressed, and you can immediately point and like, oh, that's a champion of Paku, or that is a prelate of Razan, and it's just immediate. And you feel that in how they act, in the role they play in their society, and it was a huge inspiration for how I actually built Vokatan as a character.
Yeah, the Loa are like so like deeply rooted in their city, in like their culture. No, like no matter where you go around like Zuldazar, you will see Loa worshippers. There's like different sections where you find different ones. You even see their at like not aspects, but there's like the different trolls that you could fight that I think are rares or something around there, and like each of them's like an aspect of a Loa.
Hmm.
It's really cool, and it's interesting to see how like each one of them is dressed differently, like you said, and you can immediately tell like that's for that Loa, that's for this Loa, which it's just an awesome thing to see because I don't think we get that like distinction enough within the races of like World of Warcraft. Like there's not for like Titan worshipping people, not one of them is dressed specific to like a Titan, right? Or like
Hmm.
I, I guess like the light people you could easily like people who believe in the light you could easily tell because they're in like robes and they look very like holy and stuff, but you don't really see that a lot throughout World of Warcraft, so it's really cool to see.
Yeah, the next closest to that point would be the Kaldori and the ancients and wild gods for that type of dress and worship. And even
Yeah,
then, that's mostly just constrained to druids and, in some cases, different priesthoods.
right, because like the Kaldori druids and the Kaldori like priests have specific garbs that they like wear, right? So,
Hmm.
and I guess the druids, it depends on like what, um, like if they're a druid of the claw or a druid of the fang or something like that, right? They would dress depending on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's something that we don't get enough of, but I hope that we do in the future. You know, there's a lot that could happen in Last Titan. Hopefully, a lot of good things, and there's still a lot of midnight. I mean, season one's not done yet, guys. Right? Like, we still
Yeah,
have
it's like,
a couple seasons to go.
yep, and oh, how convenient how the next patch coming up is a troll patch.
Well, I mean, we got a lot of good troll stuff going on right now, so hopefully it's not a bad story patch and we got some awesome stuff to see.
Uh, Fingers crossed that continues.
Yes, that's all we could hope for. Now, for the Zandalari, they have a lot of classes that they could play, and a lot of the classes are pretty interesting to see that they have, like how it's rooted through their lows and everything. But if the Zandalari could have any other class, it doesn't have to be from World of Warcraft, it could be from any like tabletop role playing game, MMO, JRPG, anything like that. What class would you like to see them get, and why?
It's a good thing you specified that because, to my memory, they can be pretty much every class that isn't Demon Hunter or Evoker. So that kind of limits the traditional WoW classes for this kind of question. But I would like to see something a bit more in line with like a witch doctor or a even like a shadow hunter or a prelate type, just something that would allow those visuals of the Loa to be more present in the actual castings of the abilities. Because sure, we got plenty of different themed transmogs for a bunch of different Loa, but a lot of those special visuals are really just locked behind like dungeon fights or raid bosses or cutscenes, and we don't really get that kind of feel with our actual abilities in game. So I just love kind of something just a bit more like natively role-esque, but ideally something that could also be reasonably seen as something other races could pick up as well at that point, just to not create another demon hunter situation.
I think out of all that, Shadow Hunter or like Witch Doctor would be two of the best ones to have because I mean you could give that to probably every class, like every race, right? Like it's obviously very troll focused, and I'm sure like Zandalari and regular trolls would get it too. But those would be awesome to like see implemented because like Witch Doctor, I feel like it would be like kind of a combat alchemist type thing where you use a lot of potions and curses and like hexes. So that would be
Easily.
like an interesting thing to see them like implement. And then Shadow Hunter, I mean, just fourth hunter spec question mark like
Yeah. Fourth hunter spec, another option for hero talents or something. I don't know.
yeah, I mean hero talents just also make things a lot easier to like bring in these kind of interesting things, right? So like I almost forgot about hero talents altogether. Oh,
Yeah, some of them are easier to remember than others.
very very true. So now of all of these Andalari lore characters, who is your favorite character?
So, having scoured through the just kind of vast list of differing Zandalari characters throughout WoW's history, I didn't want to necessarily have an obvious pick like Talanji or Rastakhan or even Zool as much as I as much as that VA did an amazing job of pissing me off during BFA. But no, my actual favorite would be a character who's been around since Wrath of the Lich King, that being Chronicler Tokini, who was sent over to Zuldrak to catalog and record the downfall of the Drakari Empire, and more specifically, how they sacrificed their Loa to gain power. And it was that research that Zool and his minions took advantage of in BFA by kidnapping him when they rebelled against Rastakhan. So I just love little connections like that, and it's always nice seeing Blizzard remember some characters they introduced like over a decade ago and giving them a brand new model and a little bit of extra story relevance when they do.
Yeah, that is so cool to see a character from like so long ago that not a lot of people probably remember, and then actually see them implemented in like a future expansion where Blizzard for once remembers that these characters exist and actually involve them into a story. Like that's awesome. Like that's what I like to see with the writing.
Hmm.
Like those neat little details and like these, oh, like remember this little character from like Zoldrak from Wrath that was maybe like not an important quest line, but they're there for this. Well, they're back now and they're in this major like arc now, and like their research could doom everything. Who knows? Always
Yeah,
cool
it
to
was
see.
a lovely thing to see actually get played out. So
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure
always
like
love moments like
people
that.
who did remember that character and might have been troll fans were probably so ecstatic at the moment. They're like, "Oh, I remember that dude. Yeah."
Yeah.
This brings me to the last question. Surprise. Just like last year, we have race specific questions, and for you this year it is the troll one. So, who had more raw aura during the Zulamon questline, Zul'Jan or Zuljara?
Oh, that is a tough question. Okay. So I could definitely see points being made for both, but for different reasons. With Zuljara, it's obvious to see with her reconnecting with her people's ancient history, moving past the shadow of her grandfather and all that. But Zul'Jan also has that element of not exactly wanting to be blind by pure faith, wanting to survive through the just through his own will and not at the behest of some higher power, as fickle as they may be also benevolent. But I'd say just during the actual questing of the zone itself, I'd have to give it to Zuljara. Just due to the fact that of the two, she is far more present during it. You're going through that journey alongside her as the Hashura. And it feels a lot more personal, whereas the most you really see of Zul'Jan up until the you know story chapter that was just released the other week, he was just kind of sitting around moping and complaining the majority of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm like as big of a fan of his as a lot of people are. I also like took time and watched like that hour-long troll story that they had on the like WoW YouTube with how they lost their mother and everything, and I definitely would give full
Hmm.
points to Zuljara on all that. The brother
They
just
are,
seems like a whiny little bro energy, you know?
I mean, he is more or less just still stuck in her shadow. And I can understand how that mindset would kind of develop from that, wanting to show that he can do things his own way and that he doesn't need to follow traditions, and the strength of the Amani is all that they need. They don't need the Loa, they don't need outside help. They're both good characters in their own way, And I just hope that things continue to be good in that way as we move forward into the Curse of Ulatek here soon.
Yeah, all we could do is hope and wait for the next patch to see where it goes, you know?
Just keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed, and it can only go up, hopefully. But Volkatan, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
I certainly plan to enjoy it, and I hope it goes by smoothly for you as well.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Blood Elf Race Rep interview. I'm here with our Blood Elf Race Rep. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Hello, I am the player of Theldana Silvervale, the co-leader of the Silvermoon Council.
Welcome in, Theldana. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to do this, and please tell us what made you choose Blood Elf as your race.
Uh, to be honest, I think I chose Blood Elf playing Warcraft 3. The moment the Blood Elves lost their home and the majority of their people and their way of life, everything that they had, uh, and they chose to just show up in Northrend and tell the man who did all that, "Hey, we didn't hear no bell. We're still here to fight." That was the moment that really made me fall in love with the Blood Elves.
The fabled Warcraft 3. I still have not played any of the original Warcrafts. I know how amazing they are. I've been told they're awesome, and I've seen all like the revamped cinematics. I think I really need to go back there and like play through it to see all these amazing moments that make you and so other people like love it and have picked like their races and classes from it. Cause yeah, I mean the fact that like Arthas and them rolled through Silvermoon, rolled through Quel'Danos, and then the Bells were like, we're gonna follow you because like you said we didn't hear no bell. So
Yeah.
that's pretty epic, you know. um and to like expand on that, what makes you like so passionate about the Blood Elves?
I think it's just the typical subversion of the fantasy elf archetype. Um, they're not they're not the good guys all the time. They're willing to do and have done whatever it takes, good or evil, for the survival of their people. They love to present themselves as these ancient beings of wisdom and knowledge, but deep down they're just as imperfect as every other race in Warcraft.
Yeah, we have seen them at their highs and we have seen them at their lows. We've seen them as good guys, we've seen them as bad guys, right? Like helping with the siege of Orgrimmar or fighting them with or against Kael'thas in Outland and all that stuff. There's been a lot of ups and downs, goods and bads, and some wild fights in between.
Absolutely.
So the Blood Elves have been around forever in both World of Warcraft lore and in game, and they have a lot of classes that you're able to, you know, pick to play. If they could have any class, it doesn't have to be just from World of Warcraft. It could be from any tabletop role-playing game, MMORPG, JRPG, etc. What class would you like to see them get, and why?
Um, Spellbreaker is such an iconic Blood Elf class. It's been around since Warcraft 3. And I think it shows the best of their magical and martial prowess. They're, I really would be excited to see that class implemented one day.
Now, would that be more of like a new mage spec, or would that be like its own class? How would you like want to see that implemented?
That's tough because they're kind of a mix between a warrior and a mage, right?
Yeah.
Um, so probably as a mage class would be really interesting since they already have the use of the arcane. A very defensive, tanky mage class, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them even maybe making it a hero talent. But yeah, a new mage spec would always be great, especially when that's a bit more tankier, a bit more beefy.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna say more hard hitting, but they're all hard hitting anyways,
Yeah.
so that's just irrelevant. No, that's a good pick and one I haven't heard before. I don't believe so. I would also love to see that implemented because like spell blades, spell breakers, always been like this interesting and cool thing to look at in like lore and like the concept. So seeing it in
Yeah,
game
we
would be
we
pretty
have
cool.
quite a few people in my guild who roleplay as Spellbreaker
As
elves.
they should, because it's awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
Now back to the fact that Blood Elves have been around forever. Which of the Blood Elf lore characters is your favorite character?
That is a tough choice, and I think it has to come down between Kel'Thas and Lorthamar. And at the end of the day, I think I have to pick Lorthamar. He's really just the epitome of a regular guy who was thrust into power, and if he fails, his people die. Right? He's the last chance they have, and he has put his everything into ensuring their future. And he's messed up at times. He has messed up at times, and he continues on, even when he has made enemies of his own people. But I really love the little subplot that they gave him with Thalyssra too. Um, that's honestly one of my favorite little subplots in WoW.
Yeah, I mean that their story and arc and everything has been something that a lot of people have really enjoyed. And Lorthamar literally is the definition of the dude who's like, I don't want this job. Like, why are you guys making
Yeah,
me do this? Like, I never wanted this. I never asked for it. But he's been thrust into power, right? Because he was the one that they chose, and he was like the last of, I guess, like the higher ups or whatever. And they're like, hey, so it's up to you, bro. Like, you got to do this because no one else is gonna do it. So even though you don't want it, sucks to suck, you know. Like,
yeah.
but he's
You've
been
been
doing a good job.
voluntold.
Yeah, you've been voluntold, exactly. And the Thelyssra story has been really cool. The fact that they got like a book too, and like you got to see all these lore characters show up to their wedding from both Alliance, Horde, Neutral, like all these different factions, right? That was
Yep,
also
and
really cool to see.
yeah, it really is. And I mean, the dude deserves a little bit of happiness.
Yeah, through everything he's been through, I think so.
Yeah,
I was expecting them to put like the crown on his head at the end of the Midnight Story. Not gonna lie, I'm like, oh my god, they have the High King's crown. It's finally gonna
yeah.
happen.
Hopefully, they do something, even though they threw the crown in the Dawnwell.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they give him something.
because like it's been like how long, and it's still Regent Lord. It's like how long do you want this regency to go on for, guys? Like just the endless regency where like these elves live forever, and this dude's just gonna have this like temporary title for the rest of his life. Like what's going on? But who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe we'll see something either towards the end of Midnight or in the Last Titan. And like I was telling one of our other race reps, we still have a lot to go in Midnight. It's only season 1, guys. You know, like there's still 3 more seasons, a lot of patches, a lot of story.
I do hope they put a nice little cap on that little bit of story with him as the Regent Lord. I think it's time.
Yeah, I think so too. 100% agreed on that. And great choice, by the way. He's one of my favorite Blood Elf characters too. So I'm glad that other
Yeah,
people think that as well. He's
there's a
just
lot of good
awesome.
choices for Blood Elves.
There really is. Like Lady Liadrin's a great choice. Lorthamar's a great choice. There's a bunch of other one like let's just can someone say like Johnny Awesome for a second or whatever? Like,
I don't think the Blood Elves would appreciate that.
probably not. No, I mean there's even like that blood elf who is in the what is it, Argent Crusade, and he travels with Fiona on the cart and the dwarf. There's him, I forgot his name. He's a good choice.
Oh yeah,
His
I can't
stories are
remember his
always
name.
cool. You get to see them in the Argentina this expansion. They have like their own little story.
Yeah, I can't remember his name though.
Yeah, I can't either. And I'm not gonna take time to unfortunately look it up. Someone will tell us eventually, I'm sure. Um but saying all that, it brings me to the last question, which is like the surprise question that is race specific. So this is the Sindorai, the Blood Elf question. So here we go. Blood Elves are the height of fashion. Tell us what is in fashion right now and what is out of fashion with regard to transmogs.
Well, considering Midnight is taking place in Quel'Thalas, anything red and gold, I think.
And red and gold, you can't go wrong with. 2 of my favorite color schemes of all time. Red
Absolutely.
and gold, black and gold. Love them both, you know?
I like to joke and tell people I don't know how long it took the Blood Elves to go through Quel'Thalas and repaint everything red once they become Blood Elves.
Oh god, the intricate details and like all the paintbrushes and oh my god, yeah, it must have taken a while for sure.
Yep,
Just like get mages to like put like charms on the brushes so they paint themselves.
there you go. That seems more in
Um,
line with what the Blood Elves would do.
yeah, you know there'd be a blood elf in a chair with like a glass of wine in their hand and then just like moving their finger around while a bunch of like paintbrushes are painting something for them.
Absolutely.
So blood elf. But yeah, red and gold. Good, very good answer. The only answer, truly.
Exactly.
Well, Feldana, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It has been my pleasure, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
No, thank you. And I appreciate being made the Cinderai racial rep this year.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Nightborn Race Rep interview. I'm here with our Nightborn Race Rep. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you, darling. My name is Lana Del Vistra, Deviless of the Crimson Thicket.
Well, welcome in, Lanadel. Appreciate you for being here. What made you choose Nightborn as your race?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of reasons why I chose Nightborn as a race. One of them being, and I think a lot of folks who represented Nightborn said this in the past, but I started out playing Night Elves, love Night Elf lore. Um, Not really crazy about the Alliance. I've always been a Horde person from the get-go. I got like Horde stuff all over my room. So played a Blood Elf for a long time and I was really active in the Blood Elf community. And then when they announced Nightborn, I fell in love. I loved their story. I loved their aesthetic. I think a lot of folks who share the same passion for Nightborn do so because in a way they're they're artists, they're poets, very much the culture, the 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 passion for arts is very evident in Nightborn culture, and I think some of the best writers I've ever met, the best role players I've ever met, tend to come from the Nightborn community. It's so small, but that's really probably why I've stuck with Nightborn as long as I have.
They do like the refined things in life, that is for sure. They enjoy their arc wine, they enjoy their arts, they enjoy their lavish lifestyle. And a lot of
But they do.
that they do. And a lot of that sounds like kind of what drew like your passion for the Nightboard and everything. So would you be able to like expand on that for us and tell us what makes you so passionate about the Nightborn?
Yeah. So, like I said a little bit, folks who tend to play Nightborn are usually ones who love intrigue, who love history, who are passionate about the arts. And um, speaking for myself personally, and why I feel like Nightborn really line up for me as an outlet for my role play is because I do participate in the arts a bit. When I was younger, I used to perform at poetry slams. I used to act. I used to um, participate in galleries. I've had my work featured in published works. Really dead set on becoming an artist full time, but then life took a different turn, and being able to write the depth of story that I can through the means of Nightborn roleplay is what really enriches me as a writer, as a hobbyist, as a role player. And I guess you can call me someone who likes to build worlds, and I feel like the world of the Nightborn and Highborn and Suramar in general just gives me that perfect backdrop to build those settings for other people who share those same passions as I do.
There is a lot to go through there. I could tell how passionate you are from how you speak and how you explain what like brought your passion and fueled it, and how the the culture and the society of the Nightborns meshed with what you're doing IRL. So like you have that connection there. And
Mhm.
Surmar is just an amazing place, and it's beautiful to look at. It's great to be in, and hopefully we get
Mhm.
more stuff with it in the future. Um, I do think that the Nightborn have a very unique society and a very unique culture,
Mhm.
and like you could really tell that it is like a luxurious lifestyle and a lavish lifestyle for a lot of them. Some maybe not so
Oh yeah,
much,
we
but
bougie.
yeah, exactly. Y'all bougie. um, now for the Nightborn, if you could
Mhm.
have them be any class, it doesn't have to just be from World of Warcraft. It could be from any like tabletop role playing game, MMO, JRPG, etc. What class would you like to see them get, and why?
Demon Hunter, right off the bat. The Warlock, and maybe I'm just a little bit of an edge lord, but I like playing dark characters. And I mean, it makes sense because you had some Nightborn that became Fellborn, and in Lana Dell's story, she briefly was on the wrong side of history, and I think she's made up for that past mistake and her sins, if you will. So I think it'd be freaking awesome if Nightborn could be demon hunters. I mean, we're the only elves right now that aren't demon hunters. I mean, if they can cook up a reason why void elves can be demon hunters, then they sure as heck can come up with a reason why Nightborn can be demon hunters. Because I would totally make like a full blown like Fellborn like Nightborn, and then explore what sort of what would life be after the Legion's gone and Elisand overthrown, and um kind of what sort of turmoil would a demon hunter or like a full-blown Fellborn have to endure as far as like redemption with like the rest of their people, not just like with the Nightborn. I think also with like night elves too, because that's even more beef. I think double beef.
Yeah, double B for sure. Felborn would probably be the easiest like route for them to take with introducing demon hunters to Nightborn. And I mean, like you said, Void Elves just got it. I know they're basically, well, they are just Blood Elves that got exiled, but like Nightborn and Night Elves are not very far off from each other. They're all Night Elves, just one got trapped under a dome for like 10,000 years or something, right? So
Just a
it,
little hermited, you know.
that's it.
I haven't seen
Just
the sun in a while.
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a hard thing to get put in, I don't think. And Warlocks, I mean, that would be pretty cool too for sure. But Felborn
Mhm.
would definitely be an interesting thing to see them adapt to the Nightborn and lead down like the path to Demon Hunters in the end. It would be a really like awesome thing to do, and it's already in lore for like the Felborn, right? So it'd just be an easy thing to roll through. Um,
Totally. We're starving. We're like the most neglected elf race, I think, or elf or just race in general. And you know, my friend and I, who's also an avid Nightborn role player, we have our 2 cents and our hot takes about the way Nightborn have just kind of been used in the story so far. And I'm just saying, even with like customizations, we're hungry. Blizzard, if you're watching, please. We're starving. We need attention.
give them more, Blizz. You heard it here. Give them more. Now for the Nightborn, there are a lot of lore characters that we've got
Mhm.
from, when they were first introduced, and we saw them all in the main story for a while. I mean, Thalisra's the one that's in the spotlight at the moment, I would say.
Mhm.
Which of
Mhm.
your race's lore characters is your favorite?
I gotta say Oculus. I mean, ever since I did the quest line back when Legion was current and they introduced Oculus, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And then he's like, "Oh, okay, so you're an agent of the Dusk Lily. All right, cool. So let's talk." And then he just walks off and he like forgets that you're in a bubble. He's like, "Oh, I guess I should bring you down first." I love the nuances of his character. I mean, he's a really talented telemancer. He's proud him and his little group of other telemancers are credited for, the system, the teleportation system, how sophisticated it's gotten for the horde. So like just imagine like getting somewhere a lot quicker. And I mean, there's even a little blip where Oculus, I think, during the whole Elven Council thing, and they're sitting in a military cell, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'm just here waiting for the next stop when people need me, I guess." I just think he's real, I think. And I just love his humor. And whenever I talk to my friends, I'm always like, "Where's my boy Oculus?" Because like Oculus, he wasn't any of the Lystra squad really. Because I call her squad. Like when you first got to Silver Moon and you see the like literal shelf they put the Lystra on, they didn't even surround her with like her homies. Where was Voltois? Where was Oculus? Where was Lady Lunastra? Like they should have been around her. That's her entourage. Instead, we got like those little filler NPCs. So when Oculus showed up, I was like, "Oh, it's my boy!" And I was really excited.
Oculus is a great pick. I really enjoyed him during Legion, and I don't think that's one that I've heard yet because a lot of people are just like Delisra, Elisand, or like Ruinous,
Mhm.
and then um yeah, so Oculus, a great pick. And I don't even know where Delisra is in Silver Moon. I still have not found her yet. So it is unfortunate that her
Yeah,
entourage isn't around her, all of her like homies. Like they should be there with her, you know?
it's really sad. Like every model got updated, but the Nightborn, they look horrible. They look like outdated. I mean, you only see an updated model of the Lystra during the cinematic of the Dawnwell. Then when you're out of the cinematic, she's just like we're so neglected. Like such a beautiful, like a really cool take of a race that has already existed. And I think a lot of people who play Nightborn like them a lot because they remind them of like Drow or Dark Elves or Dunmer, who have very similar aesthetics, but they're just sleeping on them. I think we have all these flavors of uh, High Elf and Blood Elf, Qualdori. Much love to them, but as far as Shaldori go and a Nightborn, there's so much potential there. And I know when you do the quest where you go to, they take you to Suramar, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're going back to Suramar." So what's that going to look like? So you go to the this area and it's cleared out for that quest, and then my friend and I were like, "Oh, let's see what goes on after we like leave the area. Is it like cleared out?" No, there's demons everywhere still. They just cleared out that one little area for the quest, and it's like, wow. And then you have like the little tiny
Boo.
little rinky dink tugboat for the entrance of the delve. Just this little rinky, it's like we're so like, I feel like if the Nightborn are a kindred race to the Sindori, were joined together through marriage or kingdoms, you'd think that there would be more evidence of that unification, but you know, I'm not surprised.
Hopefully in the future we will see a lot more Nightborn stuff because y'all definitely deserve it and need it. Um so Blizz, get to it. But this brings me to the last question of the interview, which is the
Mhm.
race specific one. So this is a Nightborn specific question for you.
Okay.
The Nightborn are a classy, elegant race of elves with exquisite taste in interior and exterior design. Orgrimmar seems a little disorganized and dusty by comparison. What would your Nightborn do to spruce up the Horde's capital city?
what would I what would Lana Del do? Well, Lana Del, the thing about Lana Del is that she is okay with like scrappier things because she's a little scrappy, but she's just recently re-embraced her heritage and is mingling herself back into Shalassian high society, if you will. So if you're asking Lana Del, like truthfully, what she'd do to Ogremar, I don't think she'd really do much. If really the only thing she would do is maybe add like air purifiers throughout the place so that the dust bowls and the dust wasn't so irritating to one's skin. And maybe because she's photosensitive, uh, just add some more shade. Like think of like old Orgrimmar, like back in like Wrath, like pre-Kata, and they had like the canopies going between the different sections of the city. I think Lana Del would reintroduce more canopies and just cooler spots. So like places where you're not hacking on dust, you're not sweating your butt off, and your eyes aren't being blinded from the searing sun. Just some small things.
Just some small things, so they don't sound like difficult changes to make. The canopy should have stayed, that's for sure. Maybe
Hmm.
throw in some purple and get rid of some of the spikes, but great answer all around, I think. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with me. It's been fun. I hope you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to this year's festivities.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Night Elf Race Rep interview. I am here with our Night Elf Race Rep. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Hello, thank you for having me. I play Ash Bladesong, a Caldori Warden. Uh, she currently leads the Belemeth division of Watchers, and she's also something that I call a Wisp Walker.
Ooh, okay. Wisp Walker sounds interesting. We'll have to get into that a bit later into the interview, I think. But to start us off, what made you choose the Caldori, the Night Elf, as your race?
So I started role-playing at the start of Dragonflight. I had really been like DMing a lot of D&D games, but I never really thought about role-playing in WoW until then, right? Um, So I already loved elven races in general, be it, Sindori, night elves, be it half elves, all elven types. But the Caldori really stood out to me as this like really strong and older race, and they have like such a huge timeline for the possibilities that you could do. You could be some olden Caldori that's lived for 10,000 years that has all this life experience, all these wars, all this, everything that they've gone through. Or you could have more of a night elf that's, younger, maybe in the sense of a few hundred years, to where a lot of their life has been what we've seen in World of Warcraft, where it's been a lot of back-to-back war and war with the factions and, all of that. So you kind of get a variety of characters that you can either role play with or role play as because that timeline is so huge.
Yeah, I mean, if you just like look at Tyrande and like Malfurion, they're like 10,000 years old, right? So there's like a lot of time that you could play around with for your character. There's a lot of things that happen from like before Teldrassil was the home of the Night Elves to it being grown and then it being burned and a bunch of like wars in Ashen Vale like, with the orcs and joining the alliance. There's like so many things, right? Which makes it awesome. And it sounds like a lot of the freedom is what kind of builds or has you somewhat passionate about this. So, can you expand on what makes you so passionate about the Night Elves?
Now, the passions really came from like my experiences of playing with Ash. Kind of like what I was saying, there is a variety of characters, but you kind of run into those characters when you're role playing itself. Um, a lot of that growth has actually came and passion has came from the guild I am currently in and now the guild master of. The Watchers of Belemeth. I kind of came into this guild as a student or as a Theroshan. From then, I've kind of built with these other characters in the guild, and I've you know created these bonds and long-lasting connections with these other players and characters that's been lasting like a few years. That it really just drives that passion to you know continue to invest and not just in this character, but in the expanding lore of the Caldori and the guild itself. And I don't know, it's just all the passion comes from there. It's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, when you have like a good group of people around you, it definitely helps to make things more enjoyable. And then when you're interested in like the lore and the race and all that stuff, it makes it even more enjoyable on top of that, right? So it sounds like you are in the perfect place to be for you and your character, which is amazing to see. Um, Now, for the Night Elves, they have quite a bit of classes that they could play at the moment. If you could pick any class that they could get, it doesn't have to be just from World of Warcraft. It could be from any like tabletop RPG, MMORPG, JRPG. What class would you like to see the night elves get, and why?
See, it's a tough one because I've always been like a warrior player. It's always been like my go-to class, even before I started role playing in Dragonflight, right? But if I could think of a class that would sort of like be my own that World of Warcraft could bring in, it'd be something like a hybrid between warrior and rogue, and I would kind of call it like a blade dancer, right? It's a class that still heavily focuses on one-handed blades, but without the sneaking portions of being a rogue, right? It's very like in your face, very evasive, very quick hitting, but it's almost like your movement in the battlefield is a dance itself, right? You're kind of like flowing with the battle itself. So it's a combination of both warrior and rogue, but just in its own form, right?
Kind of like reminds me of like water dancers from like Game of Thrones.
Right.
With that sort of fighting style, which would be really cool to see. I think that would be awesome. And what was so what was the thing that you said your character is also of? The wisp, I'm already blanking, but
Yeah, the Wisp Walker.
yeah, do you want to like
So
expand on that for us?
yeah, it's a very fun concept. It's I kind of thought of the lore myself, but I think it's still lore friendly in the grand scheme of things. So Ash, uh, her name right now is Ash Bladesong, but her last name used to be Wiskwalker. So there was a time that she lost her memories. Her memories have came back to her, but she's retained the Bladesong last name that she came up with. But the Wiskwalkers are both a family line and a title. And what they do is, I kind of thought of the idea of, the Wisps are very sacred to Caldori culture. They're like the spirits that protect the forest. They can help, nature grow and thrive, or even protect, like when the Burning Legion attacked Hyjal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the idea is kind of like every wisp has a forest that it wishes to protect, but what if the Caldori had died, say, in Northrend, right? It'd be quite a trip if their wisp wanted to protect Ashenville. So the idea is the Wisp-Walker is sort of the person that helps guide and travel with those wisps to make sure that they arrive to their, designated forest safely. Um, and it's also they can commune with Wisp, so it kind of gives people an outlet if they want to do a role play where they can, speak to their deceased parent or, of the likes like that. Ash can actually, speak to these Wisps, and she can also see their last memories from their own point of view. So she's gone through a lot of, um, I guess you can say, a little bit of mental distress in that regard because say you're helping guide these spirits, but before you guide them, you kind of see their last moments. So it can be something that's either very peaceful or, say, during the faction conflicts, you would see a lot of war-related death.
Yeah, so it could be very traumatic and mentally straining for sure, just based off of that. But that's also like a really neat concept that sounds super cool, and you don't really see a lot of people playing around with like little things like that because like I feel like wisps are like important to Caldori culture, like you were saying, but not a lot of people like do things with them.
Yeah,
So
and
it's cool to see someone actually like implementing that into their character's story and like arc and everything.
and I feel like it's something that's like lore friendly, right? It's not something that's like so extreme that people are kind of
Hmm.
flipped out about it. It's just like, hey, that kind of makes sense. It's kind of like a profession in a sense where you're just helping guide some spirits reach where they need to go, right?
Yeah, for sure. So the Night Elves, they've been around in World of Warcraft lore for a long time. You know, the OG Warcraft games, the books, the like tabletop roleplay game, all that stuff. And now they get more lore, right? Which means
Yep.
new characters. Which of the Night Elf lore characters is your favorite, and why?
So I say it's an interesting question because kind of like what you were saying, the Caldari have such a vast history with thousands and thousands of years, and there's been many names that can pop up. I mean, you have heroes, you have villains. I mean, even some of the most prominent villains have been some form of night elf in the past, like Ajara and so forth, right? Um, but at the same time, personally, I try not to think too much about lore characters when role playing, like in the sense of, I may be a warden, but I'm not going to be buddy buddy with like my Ev in a sense, right? But in terms of favorite, I'll actually throw a curveball and I'll say Maev's brother, Jared Shadow Song, would probably be my favorite night elf at the time because back when I was in high school, which is many years ago at this point, uh, I read the War of the Ancients trilogy. I'd be the kid, finish my work early in school, and I'd be reading this big trilogy book that had all three books in it. And I just remember reading about his like leadership in the book, and everyone thinks of Maev, but he kind of gets overshadowed by her in that sense because she's, the big important warden, but he had a lot of important roles himself, leading like the resistance back in the day as well. Um, but I would say his like presence in WoW itself has been very minimal. I would like to see if he showed up more often. I think right now he's currently just sitting in Belmeth in one of the towers, just looking like a pretty NPC, and that's about it right now.
That is a good choice, and I very much enjoyed reading about him, learning more about him when like Legion came, and yeah, that's well, a choice I haven't heard for the Night Elves often because I mean a lot of times, well, no one's really hit us with like the Tyrande or Malfurion obvious ones yet, but I'm pretty sure I've heard like
Yeah,
Broll, like Bear Mantle one year. Um, I think someone might have said like Staghelm before he joined like the Fire Druids and like Ragnaros. So Jared's definitely a new one and a great choice, a great character, and I mean that War of the Ancients book is an amazing read.
it is.
So with that being said, this comes down to our last question of the interview, which is the race specific question for the Night Elves. So this is, who is the most likely to win a dance battle between the following names: Illidan, Tyrande Whispering Wind, Malfurion Stormrage, the specific shade of Xavius in Val Shara that pretends to be Malfurion and shouts, Tyrande, where are you? I need you. And Fennel.
And I think I'm gonna have to go with Illidan because he might have some clunky footsteps since he doesn't have actual feet anymore. He has hooves. But I
Yeah.
think the addition to wings and perhaps a slow dance flying through the air or just like however that he can come through, and not to mention I feel like Illidan is kind of like he'd be the lady magnet, right? So he would know how to dance and pull his moves, right?
Very true, and I think out of all of them, that is the best choice. I don't really see Malfurion breaking it down on the dance floor. I think he would wait for the slow song and then grab Tyrande.
Right.
I could see Illidan going crazy though, for sure.
He could give those rock and roll vibes too. I could really see that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ash, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. It's been my pleasure, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
And thank you once again for having me. I'm really excited to see how the tournament goes this year.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Haranier Race Rep interview. I am here with our Haranier Race Rep. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Zeldera, and I am a private of the 1st Regiment Guild. And some of you actually may know me as Wolfie online. And yeah, thank you again for having me.
It is our pleasure. Thank you, Zeldara, for being here. And can you tell us what made you choose Haranier as your race?
To be honest, the very first thing that stood out for me was the Sable form, which is travel form for Haranier. I absolutely fell in love with it. I am a Druid main, have been a Druid main since vanilla. And once all the customizations were unleashed, I absolutely fell in love with the race and learning about their lore throughout, beta testing and all that. I just simply said I must play the Heronir.
That is totally understandable. The druid forms are amazing across the board. The Heronir have some very, very nice ones as well. I've been tempted to make a Heronir alt for a while now, but like my alts tend to just sit on the back burner for a while. Um, and their lore is pretty interesting. And it sounds like just from the get go, you've been passionate about the Heronir. So why don't you expand on what makes you so passionate about them?
Well, I like the fact a lot of people have very conflicting views when it comes to Heronir with their lore. Um, a lot of people don't like that they feel like it's been shoved in. In retrospect, it's like, yeah, Blizzard kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit, but honestly, I like having that opportunity to be more creative when it comes to Heronir. Um, there's things that have come up, like for example, when your Heronir is coming to the surface, they don't know anything about surface life. So you have to integrate your character into society and roleplay that character as if they know absolutely nothing. And it's been an absolute blast with that.
Yeah, I mean that's basically like it kind of was for the Drakthir when they got introduced, right? Like thousands of years in stasis, they didn't know what was what off of the Dragon Isles and all that stuff. So
Exactly.
you have this whole new perspective, a whole new world, if you will, of opportunity and development and just fun, exciting adventures. And like, yeah, Harondar and Heronir kind of felt like they got shoved into this expansion because it kind of felt like War Within content that got like scrapped or delayed, and they're just like, we'll throw it in the midnight. But beautiful place to be. The lore's been
Absolutely.
fun. The Haranir characters that we meet along the way have been amazing. Like that poor root keeper that's still like tending to Teldrassil's burning roots. Ugh. Um, yeah,
Can't forget about the music.
true. The music's been great too. And all in all, like, hey, if it's something that like excites you and you're looking to like build a character basically from scratch and just have them go on these new journeys where they know nothing of, it's one of the best races to choose, right? For that.
Absolutely.
And now I'm not super familiar with all the classes that the Harnier can have, but if they could have a class and it doesn't have to just be from World of Warcraft, it could be from any tabletop role playing game, MMORPG, JRPG, what would you like to see them get and why?
Well, if we just stuck to WoW, I would have to say Paladin. I love Paladins. Paladin lore has always been my fancy. And again, it goes back on what I said earlier with how the Heronir are coming to the surface. They're learning about new cultures, they're learning about new stories from all over the place. And of course, with my character being more Alliance affiliated, she's more exposed to the light and whatnot. And plus they have the connection with the light bloom.
True. Yeah, maybe they would be able to use the light bloom in some sort of good way to like channel light as a paladin, or maybe they just hear the voice of their goddess in a different way and use that to kind of like channel their faith and become a paladin, right? Kind of like how the trolls use their Loa and the Tauren have Anshe, etc., etc. Like it's not all just this one light deity, right? Like each like culture in WoW kind of has their own different way to integrate into it. So it'd be interesting to see how the Heronir did that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Since Alnhara is basically everything to the Heronir.
Yeah, literally. Literally everything.
Yeah.
That is their purpose. And you know what? It's been good to them so far. Now, if it
So far.
was outside of WoW, did you have any other classes like in mind, or is Paladin the one you're locking in?
I would say Paladin would be the one I'm locking in, or
Mm,
something of the sort with the cleric, because as I said, with their story with the life bloom and all that's been happening, it just seems like that would be the most feasible.
figuring out what like their charger would look like would be pretty cool too. Like, would it just be a light glowing racial mount that they have? I don't know what their racial mounts are. Are they the
Um,
sables, like the otter looking things, or
they actually use what's called a Grimlings, and they are basically like your night elf cats, except
all
they
right,
have tusks and they have two tails that are spiked.
Right, you ride around on one for a world quest. I almost forgot.
Yeah. And then you get them as soon as you unlock Haranir as well.
Very nice. Now, the Haranir are new. Their lore hasn't been in WoW for that long. But we have seen quite a bit of interesting characters. So with that being said, of your race's lore characters, who is your favorite?
You would think that it would be Orwena, but it's a tie actually between Orwena and Hagar. Because Hagar, the reason why what makes Hagar so interesting to me is because she still tends to Teldrassil. That's still burning. And, she's still tending to the flare ups and the backlash of that. She was basically ostracized from society because of this. And despite all that, she actually still supports Orwena and supports the Haranir that it's time to come to the surface and, face the shadow, face the oncoming fight that's coming their way.
I think she still tends to the roots because like she's hoping that Teldrassil might be saved
Yeah.
in the end, right? Because like I don't think it's like a dead world tree, but it's still burning, right? Like, I think it's still alive. Who knows? I definitely don't. But no, that's a great choice. I do like Hagar. I do like Orwena. Almost all the characters I pretty much like so far that we've seen for the Haranir lore characters. So definitely some great answers right there.
Yeah. I also do like the Shulka as well. They strike me as
mm,
very interesting.
I don't know if you listened to like the hour-long video that they put up of Orwena and her best friend, who then becomes a Shulka. That was like a sad listen. Oh my god, the heartbreak in
Yeah.
that. And like her best friend
And
in
of
Tears
course
of
you
Game,
see it.
he's great too.
Yeah. And of course you see it in game too. You
Mm-hmm.
could see the dynamic between them and you could see how it transpires in game, which is something rare because normally something that's written outside of the game you don't exactly see in game. So that's quite refreshing that we get to see a bit of it in game as well.
Yeah, luckily all those videos for Midnight kind of just like gave us a recap of stories or told us the beginning of stories. So when we got to them in game, we're like, oh, so this is what happens to then lead up to like this point, right? Um, but with that being said, I am going to ask you the race specific question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Have you heard the lore theory that the Haranir mistakenly worship one of the old gods and not Azeroth? What are your thoughts?
The vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware of eyes of green. You know where that's from?
Yeah, that's one of the whispers.
Yep, from Il'gynoth. And of
Mhm.
course, uh, if for those who don't know, when you go to create a Haranir, you cannot make a Haranir with green eyes. And Orwena's the only one. It's the only model. And of course, everyone's in an uproar about that. How I feel about that, I think it could be a misguided few. Because if they are so dedicated to Alhara that, why would they go and worship this other god unless they are corrupted somehow? So it could be another opportunity for Blizzard to expand on more lore, as far as deities for the Haranir. But if it comes to that, I don't know how I would actually feel. I would feel like really bad if this whole thing was referring to Rowena because, she's one of my favorite characters.
She's a pretty great character. I do think that it probably does refer to her because I'm pretty sure there's like some key art out there that goes with the whisper, and it's definitely Rowena in the picture. I could be just assuming
I
that
don't
that
want to
art goes
believe
with
it.
it, but
I don't want to believe it.
I don't know. There's been a lot of theories with those whispers out there, and then they turned out to be something different than what the community thinks. So fingers crossed, you know.
Yeah, yeah, if that happens, I just know my poor Zelda is going to be like, well, here we go.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a great time for the Haranir, that's for sure.
No,
Um,
it's not.
But with that, Sildara, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. It's been my pleasure, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Again, thank you for having me. And for those other Hair out there, please feel free to hit me up for some Hair RP. And as I always say, I do a little thing with how light worshippers say, may it be so. I always say, may her will be done. So with that, yep, thank you again.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Drakthir Race Rep interview. I am here with our Drakthir Race Rep. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome in. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Zuri3, otherwise known as Zuri, and I am a member of Silvermoon Council's Reliquary Division.
Welcome to the interview, Zuri. It is our pleasure to have you in. So, what made you choose Drakthir as your race?
I chose to create Zuri because I have always been a huge lover of dragons. I have multiple dragon characters I roleplay in other fantasy settings. So when Dragonflight was announced, I was beyond thrilled for the opportunity to bring to life a dragon type character in World of Warcraft.
That is awesome. The Drakthir are pretty cool. Dragons all around are awesome. There's so much you could do with them character wise. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it sounds like you're a dragon expert and that there's a lot of passion behind that expertise. So if you could just expand on what makes you so passionate about the Drakthir.
Um, so I already knew a good amount of the lore surrounding the dragons of World of Warcraft because of my love of dragons. And when I deep dived into the Drakthir race, I found that there was a very wide versatility um, of like how they can become as a person, and there was many different archetypes that you could go. It wasn't very set in stone depending on like your class.
Yeah, there was a lot to play around with for sure. And I mean, at the start, they just got evokers, right? So
Yep.
it was like, ooh, okay, new class, new exciting journey. Where can I go from here?
Uh-huh. And as soon as we got to do other classes, I went and race changed a bunch of other classes to the Drakthir.
Understandably so. It was pretty exciting to see that the Drakthir weren't just going to be a one-trick pony, so to say, and they got opened up to a bunch of other things. It's still like I forget from time to time, so I'll be like out in the open world questing, and then I see like a Drakthir with like a bow and a pet, and I'm like, oh right, like Drakthir can be other things. It
Yeah,
always catches me off guard.
I have an evoker, so a lot of times when I get on my evoker, I'm like, oh right, there's actually like other types of spells I don't normally see on my other classes.
Yeah, it's a big difference for sure between all the other ones. And speaking of classes, if the Drakthir could be any class, it doesn't have to just be from World of Warcraft, but any tabletop role playing game, MMORPG, JRPG, what class would you like to see them get and why?
I so a lot of I've heard a lot of debate on that Drakthir should have the opportunity to be druids and shamans because of the green dragonflight. However, I'm kind of in the minority, and I think that we should have the ability to have death knights on the Drakthir. Just because of the lore, Drakthir were created to be a perfect soldier, pretty similar to Death Knights. So mixing the various magics that Death Knights can wield with the essences of the Dragonflights, you can actually like. There's a lot of ways to play that kind of archetype.
Yeah, it could be like an undead super soldier type, with like that perfect soldier mentality and then the raised with the new powers and abilities.
Yeah.
That would be pretty interesting to see. Drakthir Death Knight. I'm surprised like they didn't get that. It kind of feels like they throw Death Knight at everybody. So,
It
like
is kind of weird that Death Knights didn't actually get put on one of the selections.
yeah, it is pretty odd and hopefully you guys do get it in the future. That'll be cool to see. Um yeah, good choice. Great class. It's a class I could never figure out how to properly play, but it's one that I always liked aesthetically. So it'd be cool to see more people like have the ability to play that.
Hmm.
Now, out of all the dragon, I was gonna say dragonflight, but that's not what you are. You're a Drakthir. Out of all the Drakthir lore characters in the game, which one is your favorite?
That would have to be Scale Commander Emberthal. There's a quest line when you get the personal tabard. She tells you that she's rejecting the idea that she doesn't want a visage because she feels like she's already her truest self. And it felt like a parallel to myself because I'm autistic and I mask a lot to fit in with other people for day-to-day things.
Mm,
But just like Emberthal, my truest self is who I am, and she kind of keeps inspiring me to continue to be my truest self instead, not caring what others actually think of me.
that is amazing, honestly. And like, yeah, we shouldn't really care what other people think about us, but our brains are evil like that and make us care. And you should
Yep.
always aspire to be your truest self. So that is truly awesome. And I'm glad that, that's why Emberthal is one of your favorite lore characters. Now, this brings me to the race rep question of the interview for the Drakthir specifically. Ready?
Yep.
If each of the Dragonflights, the Infinites, and the Drakthir all had a representative attend the dragon riding races, which group do you think is most likely to get gold? Who is most likely to hit a tree and come in last?
So I think it would be the Drakthir to come in first. Zuri likes to, in roleplay, Zuri likes to proclaim that she's one of the fastest dragons from the Forbidden Reach. So I think the Drakthir would have a very high chance of being that group to come in with gold. And then for coming in last, I think the Black Dragonflight would be the ones to come in last, simply because they kind of have that very stubborn, stone-like ego, and they would get a little too cocky of themselves and be more focused on that rather than the actual race.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Drakthir would be the obvious choice for getting first place for sure, just because I mean, it seems like a natural thing of them just doing that anyways, right?
Hmm.
All in all, good picks. I like it. Well, Zuri, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. It was an amazing chat, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Kultiran Race Rep interview. I am here with our Kultiran Race Rep. Welcome in. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me, and please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Grigory Ironmore. I'm the Kultiran Tie Guard. In the past, I've been around on the server mostly as just the token Kultiran, kind of the cool guy that would attend all the conquests. And I'm here to represent not only Kultirans all around, but also humans as well. You'll see me around the grounds with new transmogs representing the nation as best I can.
Transmogs are the true end game.
Yarr!
We do love farming our transmogs and looking good in the process. So yeah, Gregory, welcome in. Thank you so much for taking time to do this interview with me. I greatly appreciate it. And what made you choose Kultiran as your race?
So, besides the fact that Kultirans kind of have the best lore, in my opinion, of like most of the human races, and especially one of the best zones, I'll be honest, I chose Kultiran, especially Kultiran Warrior, purely because of the transmog. I love transmogging, and I love how plate armor looks on the Kultirans, and I think I've done a pretty good job of them. Um, Transmog is the end game, and I am just so enamored by it that on a totally separate character, on a DK that I play a lot, I have actually like been counting down the days, and I've waited until I can grab a looking for or a LFR helmet piece on them from a Dragonflight raid. I've just been waiting, and I got it, and it looks amazing. Um, Plate on just transmog on Coltier, I think in general is just some of the most scrumptious things that you could do if you get it right. Sometimes you have the booty shorts, and sometimes that kind of looks okay. It has its vibe, but yeah, transmog is endgame. That's my main spiel.
transmog is endgame, and I feel like I struggle a lot with transmogs, but I get you on like the counting down the days to like farm something, because I farmed Sepulcher for like 4 months to get the offset for like the warrior plate gloves that are originally like the paladin set, just for like a transmog, and I was going insane. It was like every reset for like 4 months. I did it on every plate character that I had, which is a lot. And then I finally got it, and I was like so excited. But like Kaltirans make plate look good. I feel like any of the races that have like the big beefy kind of armor make plate look good. But you're also just great at doing mogs. So I mean, you'll work
Oh,
with anything, right? Like you'll make anything work.
oh, well, I certainly may. I am. Yes, I am a big believer in. I'm part of the shoulder crowd. I'm not wearing it right now. I'm not using it right now. I'm kind to Odron. Um, but I growth pot the heck out of this guy. I growth pot him to Kingdom Come, and I do. So I'm very much part of the I like big shoulders on armor kind of guy. So I kind of high five my orcs and I high five the Tauren. As I high five the Draenei. Like we're in the same boat. I will gladly wear that badge.
I do like how the big plate shoulders look on all those races as well.
Oh yeah.
And like, yeah, Coltiran's got the big beefy shoulders, but they are big beefy people.
Oh, especially Rodori. I play him like a big beefy little athlete that he is. If anyone has role play with him, or if you've seen him on one of the public events, like over in Conquest or in the I almost said Flames of War. That was so long ago. I'm showing my age.
Throwback.
Um, yeah, you kind of get the vibe of Rodori pretty quick.
Yeah, of course. And so transmog sounds like one of the big things that you're passionate about, but what makes you so passionate about the Coltirans?
So I mentioned it a little bit, and I'm gonna hit on it some more. Coltiris is one of the best zones for human identity. Like you have almost you have access to a lot of different flavors of human. And what I mean by that, not just like body shapes. So you'll have like the skinny models, you'll have the big beefy models, and you'll have like the regular human models. But you also have different types of humans in their element. Like when you go to Tiersguard, you'll have your militant humans, and you have them in the navy, and you have them wearing the big bulky armor and the knights and the things like that. I like that. I naturally kind of gravitate to that side of the Coltiran humanity. Hence the transmog there. But if you don't want that, if you want something that's a bit more, gothic in nature, a bit more dark and mysterious, you have Drustvar. And Drustvar is rad. Okay, they have Thorn Speakers, you have your Inquisitors and your Witch Hunters, and then you kind of work with that darker magic setting. I've used Drustvar so much in the past for events and setting up scenes, and even for music, um, and the architecture there as well. You have that side of that human identity that can't be ignored. And then the same thing with Storm Song. If you want the healer side, if you want the rolling hills, and you kind of do see a little bit more of that horde conflict, then you take on that side. Each zone touches a little bit of the human identity that I don't think you would really expect from just Coltiris, but you kind of get with all of Coltiris. Um, which is a lot of words. A lot of words just say that I think Coltiris is kind of rad. Um, and you can get the abridged version of humans, and then you can kind of dive in and get the full flavor of humans. And I wish there was more Coltiris roleplay in my life, and I miss it dearly.
Yeah, I mean, in Cultiers, you could have every flavor of pie that you want and enjoy it too. There's multiple different, like you said, sort of flavors in there, a bunch of different roleplay opportunities, a bunch of different aesthetics that everybody can come together and share and enjoy. Borealis is one of the best cities we've gotten in a while for sure. Great human city
Oh
with
yeah.
a lot of great little buildings all over the place that like people are still finding today that you could go and role
Hmm.
play in. Just a great place overall with a lot of lore and rich characters in it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I freaking love Coltiers so much. and the best part is like, you don't even have to be Coltiran human type to enjoy it, because you have Freehold, you have the pirates and stuff like that, and that's not strictly human or anything like that. I just, I take all that content, I put it on a nice little, I shove it all into a calculator, it makes a happy face. I just, I love the aesthetic and I love the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, you could be anyone in Freehold. Like everyone's welcome there. It's a pirate Freehold, obviously. Um, Now for the Culturians, they do have a lot of classes in World of Warcraft that they could play. But if you could pick a class from, it doesn't have to be World of Warcraft. It could be any tabletop role playing game, MMORPG, JRPG, any fantasy setting really. What class would you pick and why?
Ooh, okay. So there's a pretty niche answer to this, which is a total different callback to a different thing. And then I'll kind of narrow it down to one that I think now that I have more thought, could be pretty good. There is a different IP, and it counts because they actually did have a D&D type setting. Ruby, spelled RWBY, which was an old Rooster Teeth project. Um, they just announced that they're getting a new season. I'm really excited for it. But they actually have a D&D system that's a homebrew that has a class called the Huntsman. Now, the Huntsman, they are, best way I could put it is that if you're not familiar with Ruby, first of all, be familiar with Ruby later. Um, but the Huntsmen are essentially like fighters that are mixed with the folks that use technology. Uh, oh golly,
Like a artificer?
artificer.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, artificer. Yeah, fighters mixed with artificers, and what they have is a specialized weapon with them. The weapon is both a melee weapon and a gun. Different types of guns, different types of melee weapons. But regardless, they use something called dust, which is, I guess, in a way, elemental magic. Things that you can use that can kind of transform your spells and the way you hit things into different types of elements. In this case with Dodori, I would absolutely do, like, obviously I'm biased. I would use anchors for my melee weapon. I'd use lightning like electric dust, and I'd use like just a giant like ship cannon for a gun. I've experienced the Ruby system a little bit on 5th edition, and I love it so much, and I need to use more of it. Um, the Huntsman is just really cool. That's my super niche answer. Some people will get it. They'll dab me up. They'll high five. I understand. That'll be great. My bit more wider open answer is definitely gonna be like a Witcher. Witcher, as in like Geralt type Witcher, for a Drustvar character. That'd be pretty good. I'd be good with that. I mean, that I'm just taking your fantasy system idea. I would just love that, something like that. And then bring it finally back down to like WoW. Yeah, Drakthir. Give me the forms. I want to be a big dragon boy, and then my form naturally be a Coltiran model. Someone does this on the community already. I love and I appreciate them because that's such a cool idea. I don't recall their name at the moment, but you know who you are. Well, I hope to see you around the tournament grounds because I think you're cool. Drakthir that uses the Coltiran model. Dab me up, high five. I'll give you a flex.
All of those are great answers. And I mean, the Culturians already have weapons that are guns. They have their axe guns, but like a Culturian artificer, fighter, huntsman type character would be terrifying. You're already a walking tank. You would literally turn into a tank. Like,
Oh yeah.
that would be insane. And, Witchers would be cool to see all around. I think that like sort of class aesthetic would be an interesting one to bring into World of Warcraft. How they would do it, I have no idea. But with all like the alchemists and everything in this game and all the crazy things we've seen, it's definitely possible for sure. Um, and dragons that are big beefy dudes as well. Throw me in, sign me up.
Uh,
you know, I think the
you know who you
Dragtheer
are.
need a bigger model for sure. And shout out to that person that you said already roleplays that. That is pretty cool. Um, Now this brings me to the fact that you have said that like Kulturan lore is awesome and that Kultiris is awesome. Well, the characters involved in all that are awesome too. So which one of the Kulturan lore characters is your favorite?
Oh gosh. Good question. You don't see it, but I'm doing a slash think in game right now. I it is the typical and topical answer. Um, I do love Jaina Proudmoore. I really do. I think she's cool. I point and I gesture towards the previous art that I have when I was on Stream Team, done by Sailboat. Um, where the first one I have, it just says, it says Lord Admiral's #1 fan in a sweater. And then for the second year, it's Dodori in Jaina Proudmoore's garb. I love Jaina Proudmoore, and I love her history within the game itself as a lore character, and it's really easy to kind of grab for that straw. Just because she is so cool, and you kind of grow up with her. For me personally, I grew up with her, and now she's just this cool, Lord Admiral that summons the Lost Navy back towards Galtiers. You gotta love that. If we're going with a character that's not as known or maybe not as spotlight, um, golly, I mentioned it a few times already, but I do love Drustvar and I do love the characters within Drustvar. Um, so I think just like the Inquisitors there, they have so much character, they have so much things about them that kind of separates them from the rest of the lore. Yes, you have your Tide Sages and you have your Tide Guards, and they are awesome. But that Drustvar and the Inquisitors that are in that area, just they make themselves so much more distinct, and especially like like Lucille. Um, I just think they're cool, and they stick with me forever. I use Drustvar for so many different things, lore or events, scenarios, or even like just character inspiration ideas. Um, they are my goats, and quickly burn it, and all that.
Yeah, I mean those characters are amazing, and I wish that we got a lot more story with them than what we did. Because Drustvar is not only aesthetically an awesome zone, but like the story was pretty rad too. Out of all the zones, and like having like being there when the Inquisitors become Inquisitors, and then going into like the way Crest Mountain with them, Mount Mansion, sorry, with them and all that stuff, and like all that story that was also epic. And Jaina's just a solid choice all around. Like the Lord Admiral's a boss, like she is awesome. We've seen her develop over so many years, so there's a lot of like sentimental attachment to that character for some people.
Yeah.
They've seen her through the ups and downs, all of the different romances, and all of that. And yeah, just all around a good choice. And speaking of Jaina, this is the
Oh.
Culturian race rep question, and it involves Jaina. So here we go. If Jaina really is a Dreadlord, what other strictly living human character in Warcraft do you think might also be a Dreadlord?
Uh, I mean, I hope she's not a dreadlord, but I'd understand. I think I'd be on her side. I think I'd understand the Sylvanas idea if she did become a dreadlord. Um, that's a good question. Golly, yeah, yeah. Okay, there is a guy. There is a guy, and he sticks with me in my brain a little bit. He is actually in Grizzly Hills. He's near yeah, he's near Amberpine Lodge. And he's a hunter that you find him in the outhouse, and he gives you the amber seeds quest. If you know anything about that amber seeds quest chain and what he does to you, and what you need to go through for that amber seeds, then you kind of know where I'm leading into. I forget his name though, but I just know that he exists, and I think he's a dreadlord because there's no way that he just inflicts that much pain on us, and doesn't have ulterior motives.
That's
If you know who I'm talking about,
the like
oh,
Barry outhouse guy, right?
yup,
Yeah. That dude's definitely a Dreadlord. An evil,
I
evil man.
experienced him. I experienced that little man. The first time I played the Wrath Classic, and I was just so blown away by that quest chain.
Yeah, no doubt. Like absolute evilness in that quest chain. And talking about a throwback, like Grizzly Hills, amazing zone with a lot of amazing story and a lot of amazing music. Um yeah, no, if Jaina isn't a Dreadlord, that dude definitely is. So a very
Oh yeah.
niche and interesting choice for sure.
It's just the one that hurt me the most.
Yeah, no doubt. I heard the pain in your voice when you were reliving
Yeah.
this tragic tale. Well,
Yeah, no, that's totally what I'd do. Yeah.
yeah.
That are like buddy. That are like buddy.
um,
Oh.
awesome. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Gregory. This has been a super fun interview, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Why, thank you. I shall see you very soon. And I'll see the
Yes.
rest of y'all on the tournament grounds. Come find me. If you're the dragon guy, give me a high five. If you love Jaina, give me also another high five. I'll be around on the tournament grounds, like I said. I think every day, just because I am repping that human vibe, I'm going to try to have a different set of transmog for the different kingdoms. I got Stromgard and I got Stormwind so far. I know I owe y'all Kieran Tor and probably Half Elf. I don't want to step on the toes of the Worgen a little bit. I think they got their own shtick. Um, but yeah, so come find me. Come say hi. Come judge my transmog. If you hate it, tell me. If you love it, also tell me, and I will react accordingly. It's good to see y'all. It's good to, and I hope to see all of y'all at the next Tournament of Ages, if not sooner.
With our Goblin race rep, welcome in. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, I go by many online names. Art. Anyone who's familiar with my art, I go by Emma_Art Studio. But in World of Warcraft, I go by Pawsy Restigear, now Skyheart. I've been playing this game since 2017, and I've been role playing on this goblin since then, since 2017. And so I've been a part of Moonguard Hordeside for a very long time. I've also been a race rep 2 times, and so this is I'm happy to do this a third time. Um, and I also am known for doing charity art auctions every year for TOA and World Fair Carnival. And I'm excited to be a part of this year's TOA.
And we are excited to have you. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview again. I'm going to jump right into the questions. So, what made you choose Goblin?
I think there's not many I think there's not many games aside from maybe D&D where I get to play as a goblin. Um, I think I think it was just love at first sight when I got to play the game finally. I wanted to main this race. I have dabbled a little into other races before, but I just found like goblins just to be the more enjoyable and more uh variety, especially as of late. Um, and it's just been like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah,
No, I mean, the goblins in World of Warcraft are very great. And like you said, there's not many video games, at least, where you get to play them in like an MMORPG setting. So it's really cool to be able to play the creative little guys that like to blow stuff up in World of Warcraft.
yeah, totally.
Now, what makes you so passionate about the goblins?
Um, they it's they've just been like my favorite little green guys for the longest time, actually. I mean, and especially coming from like an artist's standpoint, uh, they're just like really fun to draw, and I don't know, and in a maybe in a weird and maybe in a quirky way, I can almost maybe relate to them uh in some way. Um,
I mean, yeah, being able to draw them is always a fun thing to do. There's a lot of silly fun things you could do with goblins when it comes to drawing them. Their style, what they're doing, all that sort of stuff. and they are just very interesting characters all around.
Yeah.
Now the goblins do have quite a large amount of classes that they can play in World of Warcraft, but if they could get a class in the game that isn't just from World of Warcraft, it could be from any tabletop role playing game, MMO, JRPG, that sort of thing. What class would you like to see them get?
If it's not in World of Warcraft, I could see. I will. It's probably I've other people have probably seen this or like saying this, but I would love to see them as bards, especially with the running theme of this expansion of this world saga being the Radiant Song calling to the heroes of Azeroth. There could be like they're like essentially like priests following the light, but instead of the light, it's the Radiant Song. And considering Azeroth has made both the trolls and the goblins, like I think it would be just as meaningful and impactful in a way because there are her creations versus other race creations were made by the Titans, and it fits quite the theme of the world saga as well as the theme for goblins and trolls.
It does fit very well, and I think Bard is always an awesome choice. The goblins would probably be like an interesting one to get Bard. I feel like there'd be a lot of like rockers going around for the goblins with like metal guitars that fire things, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
I've seen so many like variations of goblins. I've seen like the like 1920s, 50s, 60s. Uh I've seen like punk metal goblins, uh old school goblins in general. I even recently uh created a Lemix tune that art wise I've taken inspiration of 50s Italian men slash strong men from like circuses. And because I've just been inspired by it, like a lot of like goblin artists on Blue Sky who like a little bit more of them were like the pinstripe suits and the ties, and cosmetics like scars and whatnot and different hair that I wish we could maybe have in the game. But I'm patient. I mean, we got housing eventually, so maybe it'll be the same here as for this.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't take over like 20 years or whatever to get more customizations for goblins though. It would be awesome to have different hair variations, scar options for all the races would be awesome. But like
Yeah, totally.
goblins in pinstripe suits seems like so iconic and fitting to the goblin, and like punk metal, rocker, all that sort of thing is like right down the goblin like alley, so to speak, you know? Like it's definitely
Yeah,
perfect thematically for them.
I
Um
would love I would love to see like I know Keldorais have these, but like burn cosmetic wise, burn scar options and or like suit like oil like engine oil smudges, kind of like what Gallywix has.
Both of those would be very fitting. I mean, I'm sure the goblins have burned themselves on many experiments blowing up in their faces and stuff like that because we know how volatile their technology could be. And oil stains
Uh
definitely make a lot of sense considering how much they're tinkering.
yep.
And
And massive kudos those at least where the Gazlo is building a union and giving better health care for the goblins who blow themselves up too easily.
yeah, exactly. Now, there are a lot of goblin lore characters that we've had in the game throughout the years since goblins have been around as non playable characters for a long time. Which goblin lore character is your favorite?
uh, for the lot I think since the War Within, Gazlo has been one of my all-time favorites. And since Undermine, I've explored like many more favorites, like well-known being like Noggenfogger and his wife. I have a more appreciation for him as well as like the general like cartel leaders that help save Undermine, and then even like smaller NPCs. Um, I think her name is Pamsy or Pammy. when you first meet some of the Undermine goblins before entering Undermine. It's how I kind of imagine Posse's voice being in a way. And then you meet like these two goblins in Undermine that are trying to get married, and you help out getting their wedding sorted. Um, Undermine, is, yeah, I mean, just overall, like Undermine has just been like a treasure trove of like many fun like NPCs that I enjoy, both like leader well known as well as background NPCs.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of fun like minor background characters that are in
yep.
Undermine, and I mean it's a great city with a lot of things that you're always discovering. You know, it's just really cool.
Mm. And I will say though, like it is kind of strange. Like after I know like Gallywix is known to be like a big jerk character. Like we are obviously like we're thinking of like his time will come. But ever since like he's finally passed away, it's like a weird empty feeling of like you love him, like you hate him, but you love him at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of Gallywix. I've always have been. He's a great character, and I think that's a great choice. This is gonna bring us to our race rep question, which is the goblin specific one. I think this is a pretty fun little silly one. But if your goblin had to fight Gallywix one on one, what would they do to prepare for the battle ahead? And do you think they would win?
Uh, like I think like with many goblins, like she would definitely do like a little bit of preparation and then just kind of go out with a bang, making a like an explosive entrance, like pretty much like what we've done in the raid with the other goblins. And if she were to fight one on one, I could see it might be tough. She might come out with a couple of bruises, maybe like a broken arm or two, but I think it would be kind of almost symbolic of her just like using like a battle axe to like peel open the lid when she gets a hold of Gallywix from his machine, and then essentially toss him to be hyena food.
That sounds epic. And tossing him to the hyena food is a good touch. I like that. Kind of
Lion
like,
King Scar moment?
yeah, that's what I
Like
was
what?
gonna say. Very reminiscent of like Lion King, Scar. Well, Passy, thank you so much for taking the time to this interview. It was great, and I hope you enjoy your tournament of ages.
Yeah. And thank you so much, and I hope everyone enjoys this year's tour as well.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Gnome Race Rep interview. I am here with our Gnome Rep. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Greetings, I am Aurora, and I'm the player who RPs the gnome Parrot Dainty.
Welcome in, Aurora and Parrot. Thank you again. So, what made you choose Gnome?
I chose the gnomish race due to their fun and sometimes chaotic nature. They are the underdogs of the playable races, and they are genuinely the most fun for me to play.
They are little chaotic underdogs that do not get enough love from Blizzard. This is true. We need more gnome characters in the main story, more gnome love, just all the gnome stuff, please. I do enjoy them very much, and it's always good to see them in like the main storyline. Now, what makes you so passionate about the gnomes?
I am especially passionate about this race due to the community of other gnome players out there. We all love our short, chaotic characters, but in reality, we are also tightly knit when we come together. Sometimes we even have huge fireworks shows, which for sure fits the gnomish way.
That it does. The gnomes do like to tinker, and fireworks are one of the fun things to tinker with. So that must be an awesome time for sure. Um, Now the gnomes have been around World of Warcraft and like the tabletop roleplay game and the lore of Warcraft for a long time. They have a lot of playable classes right now, with like Hunter being the most recent that they got. If you could see them get a new class in the game, which doesn't have to just be from World of Warcraft, it could be any TTRPG, MMORPG, JRPG. what class would you like them to get and why?
I would have to go with either Tinkers or Artificers, just to feed into our very much engineering gnomish brains.
Which would be awesome to see. And every time BlizzCon news is around the corner, we all see that picture pop up on our social media timelines of like new class, Tinkerer, and it's like a gnome on there with a wrench in their hand and a bunch of mechanical things. So hopefully one day Blizzard will see that and be like, you know what, we actually need to do that because that'd
I
be
hope
fun.
so.
It would definitely be an interesting addition to the game and to the gnomes in general. It could be like their hero class or something, you know. Now the gnomes have a lot of fun lore characters that are really interesting. Which gnomish lore character is your favorite?
There are a lot of good choices, but I think I'd have to go with Kelsey Steelspark. She is a covert ops specialist and is devoted to the betterment of Nomergon.
Steelspark is a good choice. One of the SI7 characters you see a lot in Mist of Pandaria. A lot of people
For sure.
who I've talked to obviously say Mechatork because like it's the like go-to, but Kelsey's a very good answer and a very great character that I've enjoyed seeing in the game. Um, so this brings us to our fun little gnome race rep question, which is specifically for the gnomes. Are you holding out hope for a Gnomergon capital city revamp? If the gnomes could resettle and
Yeah.
make a new capital city, where would you want it to see it built?
Oh, 100%. There is so much potential for Nomergon to be rebuilt. With all the gnomish furniture that we have, I could imagine there would be so much more we would get out of it. But for the location, I actually currently like the current location. It would be nice for them to rebuild what they currently have.
Yeah, I mean, just revamping Mechagon as a whole, or Gnomergon rather, sorry, as a whole, would be much easier than making a new city. And they could, put one dungeon instance on the inside for like Alliance character to get to, and then I don't think the Horde really does Gnomergon all that much. But like, if the Horde person wanted to get to it, put a dungeon entrance on the outside too, you know?
Yeah,
Very,
that'd be
very
pretty
good.
nice.
Yeah, it would be. And hopefully Blizzard eventually gives us that city because like the gnomes, the fact that we got Gilneas before we got Nomergon back,
Yeah,
like what is going
it's so
on?
much fortunate.
It's like they're just torturing you guys on purpose, you know.
Yeah, hence why we are the underdogs.
Very, very true. Well, Parrot, this has been a great interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Draenei Race Rep interview. I'm here with our Draenei Race Rep. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Welcome in, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Helia, and I play Yazira, the race rep for the Minari and the Draenei this year. Believe it or not.
Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. What made you choose Minari / Draenei as your race?
That's a good question, actually. So it was equal parts curiosity and my fiance, who has a deep love for them. He kind of got me hooked on it, and then it was down a rabbit hole of lore, and here I am.
Yeah, I mean the like personal connection is a good reason, and then the lore rabbit hole is totally understandable. I think we all go down those rabbit holes, and we're like, oh look, I have 50 alts that I'm not gonna touch. But in this case, you play the character, which is amazing. Would you be able to expand what makes you passionate about the Minari / Draenei?
If I had to be honest, I kind of like the way the story has been presented so far. Retcons notwithstanding, but the just these people that were like so sure that this was the way to go, and also the temptation of power, but somehow still at the end of it mostly being unapologetic for what they've done, penitent notwithstanding, obviously. but there is a sense of like compellingness in their story that I think a lot of modern WoW is lacking. No offense to my friends that play modern things, of course.
Yeah, I mean, retcons are always something that we could just toss to the side because it happens so much with this lovely company that is Blizzard. They like to retcon all the lore all the time. Um, I remember playing the little side quest or whatever unlocked the Minari. I was about to say the Draenei, the Minari customization for the Draenei, and it was good. I enjoyed it. The lore was an interesting change for sure. But you know what? Hey, at least we got some new form of customization. It's not the broken like I'm sure a lot of people wanted, but it's new. It's different. Why not, right?
It's it's one of those things where like it was fun to do. I enjoyed the unlock. I liked the new lore that it presented, with kind of how some of the Minari weren't all necessarily on board, and they didn't do it in a way that made it feel shoehorned. I will admit, I'm a little salty that we didn't get the fell scarred skin tones, but not everything's perfect.
Yeah, the Fellscard skin tones would have been really great, and maybe that'll be a future customization. You never know. Blizzard has said that they wanted to expand on the customizations for the various races of World of Warcraft, and a lot of them are needing it because a lot of them don't have much. Now, the Draenei have been around in not only the game but in lore for a long time, as well as the Minari. They have a lot of classes that they could already play in game with just getting some new ones recently. If they could get a new class in World of Warcraft, it doesn't have to be a class from World of Warcraft. It could be any TTRPG, MMORPG, JRPG. What class would you like to see them get and why?
So I had an answer that was like really well thought out, and then you introduced the idea that it could be anything, and so that kind of threw it for a loop. Uh, so if I had to like say something now, I would say for anybody familiar with D&D and more so familiar with Matt Colville's class, the Ill Rigger, I think that would be a fantastic addition to kind of have sort of like a anti-paladin-esque character that more draws its power from its connection to hell in the regard to the Illrigger, but drawing your power directly from like the Nether or a much more fell-infused style paladin.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with that class, but it sounds like it would be awesome to see in the game, and it would be sick, like abilities and powers to wield. So, yeah, bring it on. Let's get that in there. Now, the Draenei, like I already said, have been around for a while, which means there's a lot of lore characters, and we also got introduced to new ones over the years. Do you have a favorite Draenei or Minari lore character?
So from the Minari side, I've always liked Kill Jaden since Warcraft 3. Um, he I don't know. He was really cool. I liked his introduction in Burning Crusade. Just watching him come out of the well and just be like from the top up at the time, he was like the biggest boss we had ever had, and so it was kind of like a cool scale thing. Um, Seeing how he was portrayed like all the way through the game, and then when he got reintroduced in Legion was really, I don't know, it was really exciting from that standpoint. But I will say since then, relatively new, like extremely new to the game, Tulamar from the Nether quest line has really, I don't know, like I fell in love with her for the short duration that we had her in the questing. And for anyone that hasn't done it, I will say it's heartbreaking. There, like the very tail end of that quest chain will, if you're paying attention to what actually happens when it wraps up, it's an emotional kick and really kind of endears you to her.
Nothing like one of the best big bads we've had in World of Warcraft, and then a little endearing kick to the groin, with the emotional damage that was that quest line. Two very, very good picks, solid picks. Which brings me to the Draenei race rep question for the end of this interview, which is, when the Draenei or Minari say buy your niece a car, do they really mean that? Does your Draenei encourage reckless spending?
I will be 1,000% honest with you. Most Draenei are terrible drivers. I don't know if you've seen our track record with intergalactic vessels and planets. They're just kind of objects that we're attracted to. I would say if your niece is a Draenei, don't buy her a new car. Or if you do, please teach her to keep an eye out for intergalactic bodies.
Words of wisdom right there. Make sure that they know what they're doing and what to avoid. Well, Yazera, thank you so much for doing this interview. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Buy your niece a car.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Dark Iron Dwarf Race Rep interview. I am here with our Dark Iron Dwarf Race Rep. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and welcome in. Please introduce yourself.
Of course, no problem. I am Lord Galaric Goldratt, Royal Treasurer of all Casmodan, and 3-time consecutive champion of the Greatest Beard in Azeroth, 2015, 2017, and 2020. And yes, really.
It is quite the beard indeed, and I could understand why you won the 3-time champion at that. What made you choose Dark Iron Dwarf?
Truthfully, I wanted to delve into darker blends of magic than most options had at the time. Keep in mind, this was during Cataclysm. Combined with just general love for the dark industry aesthetic. Very big fan of that. I wanted to explore the nuances of, finger quotes, the bad guys came to mind, and what that would even look like for a dwarf. Because you don't experience dwarf and bad guys outside of the Dark Irons, and even then very shallowly, mostly back in Classic. I wanted to see where I could go with that.
Yeah, that is true. Back in Classic, every time you really saw a dwarf baddie, it was basically a Dark Iron. There wasn't anyone else.
It was
really.
always Dark Irons, and it never really went much further than that. You got little tidbits of what they were like and why they were like that, and then not a lot of. And then I spent so much time picking and pruning through all of it to find what I could.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of substance for sure.
To give those at home to an idea how little there is, I discovered that Dark Iron dwarves eat rocks, like limestone. You want to know how I discovered it? Random side speech text after completing a specific quest in Dragonflight for cooking.
Well, that is
how hard you have to dig to find anything.
Yeah, that is a lot of digging and a wild fact to find in Dragonflight of all places.
I was just doing my quest for peppers.
So, Glark, what makes you so passionate about the Dark Irons?
Oh, where to start? Part of it really would be just the aesthetics and those moments of discovery, because it's always a question like, how do they live in a volcano exactly? Yeah, magic world, fantasy writing, yeah, but like really though, what are they eating? Why? How? And I guess I got my answer. They ate rock. But discovering that, really going into that culture that not only has a lot of the dwarven calls, but this sharp divide that they experienced that no one else did, is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously were split off from the Dwarfs of Ironforge because like the War of the Three Hammers and all that stuff, and there was that deep history. And then they became like Ragnaros worshippers and summoned that and got their fiery beards and their glowing eyes.
Keep in mind, this all happened in living memory. People tend to
Yeah.
forget, but dwarves live some 400, 600 years, depending, and that was only some 400 years later. There are some dwarves who are alive who saw this,
Yeah.
who remember not being on fire all of the time.
Some dwarves experienced the change. They knew what it was like before.
Mhm.
Now, Dark Irons, they've been playable for a long time, and they got a lot of I think all the classes that the regular dwarves have that they were able to play. But if the
Fairly
Dark
certain.
Irons could get a new class, which doesn't have to be a World of Warcraft specific one, it could be from any tabletop role playing game, MMO, JRPG, etc., what class would you like to see them get?
Same one the gnomes are begging for, engineer. We don't have it. I don't know why. I like engineering as a profession, but there's so much to it in the world, how it's shown. We've had faction leaders, racial leaders, had entire patches about just the sheer variety and interesting stuff engineering of various kinds can do. And it's not even all that difficult to put. Alchemist for healing, mech jockey for tank, demolitionist for DPS. I pulled that off the top of my head. This isn't difficult. And there's so much variety waiting to be thrown there that everyone everywhere wants. But here we are.
You are the second rep so far who has said engineer slash tinkerer, and you know what? It makes
Was it
sense.
the goblins?
No, I was the gnome. Actually, I think you're the third. I think the goblin and the gnome both said it, and
Yeah, no, they're correct.
yeah, and I mean every time there's like stirrings about new things at BlizzCon, we always see that same like meme post of like Blizzard announces
Tinkerer.
new class and it's the gnome tinkerer, and it would be perfect, and we just need it already.
I am so annoyed they've decided to go with like the Void Demon Hunter thing. A tangent, I know, but I'm happy they got a third spec. We have Void stuff. We have
Yeah,
lots of Void stuff. We don't need more.
exactly. Like it's good, and I understand why they introduced it because they wanted the Void Elves to have demon hunters, which totally fine. You know,
Which is
whatever.
valid.
Um,
I'm not saying it's not valid. I'm
yeah,
just sitting here going, you got to prioritize things. You've got a longer list than this.
exactly. You've had people wanting other things for longer, but you know we could be here talking about that forever. Um, so now the Dark Irons have been in the game story for a long time, and they've had a lot of prominent characters in the game story for a long time. Out of all the Dark Iron characters, who's your favorite lore character?
I'm still amused. You say a long time. Thanks for making me feel old. Well, unfortunately, most of the Dark Irons actually don't get as much fleshing out in comparison. Moira does, but she's not a Dark Iron, is she? And Dagran only really just came into his own, so trying to, like, he's been around, but he's a baby in a cradle. Mm. Truthfully, the one who's got the most development, and my personal most interested one, is Thalen Dark Anvil. Probably the Dark Iron people actually know about because he first showed up in Warlords of Draenor. He's your dwarf friend who made the cannon go boom, and he had a bunch of other interesting quests and interactions with him. And he's shown up repeatedly since then for various things, and was even in Dragonflight helping everyone figure out the portal system.
Yeah,
As to why, personally, it's the Tony Stark built us in a cave with a box of scraps that he does. That's just great. I love that. But a bigger part is that he shows there is another side to Dark Irons that isn't this grouchy, grumbly asshole aesthetic. That's the aesthetic I love, and I play that character. But I like that there is a juxtaposition, that there are other Dark Irons you can run into who might not be like that. This guy's just a crazy nerd.
that he is, and he is one of the great characters that you get to meet in the Warlords of Draenor intro and Tanan Jungle. Him and what is it, Hansel Heavy Hands?
Mm-hmm.
Two
All
amazing
heavy hands.
characters. Yeah, I
I
really
would say
enjoyed
heavy
them.
hands. I would have said Heavy Hands, but Heavy Hands has really only had that moment and being the faction rep for Thorium Brotherhood. That's kind of all he's been doing,
Yeah, he hasn't got much
unfortunately.
since.
Yeah.
But like
And you'll find that
Thalen's
with a lot
been,
of Dark Irons.
yeah, you do unfortunately. And Thalen's been around. You know, luckily we keep seeing him pop up, and I hope we continue to keep seeing him pop up.
He's fun.
Yeah, he's a great
In fact,
character, great choice.
thank you.
And so this brings me to the Dark Iron Dwarf race rep question of the interview, which is between the Ironforge dwarves, the Wildhammer dwarves, and the Dark Iron dwarves, who would last the longest in a drinking competition?
I know this old setup. Here's what happens. The Wildhammer would say they did, but be too drunk to remember the facts. The Bronzebeard would have bet that they could, but they fell unconscious before they were willing to stop. The Dark Iron would mock both of them, but then get distracted by a brawl and never actually finish his drink. The bartender wins.
There you go. That's it. The bartender always wins. Yeah, the Wildhammers would be like, fact check that, and then the fact checker's like, I can't remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing answer. I love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. I hope you have a great Tournament of Ages.
Thank you. Have a lovely tournament.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages High Elf Race Rep interview. I am here with our High Elf Race Rep. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview, and please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Ellie, or known as Elisara Morningsong, your Quel'Dorei race rep.
Welcome, Elisara. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm going to jump right into the questions, which is, what made you choose High Elf?
So I've been a long time Sindori player, and when the High Elves, obviously playing Sindori, you run into the High Elves throughout any expansion, no matter what race you play. You see the High Elves everywhere, and they were like the #1 race that I've always wanted to play that I couldn't play. Loved them. I loved the architecture, like the old broken down cities. They're everything that you'd find, like the little hints of them in the different areas of the continents. And I always loved it, like in Dalaran, when you actually got to see the whole split between the Quel'Dorei and the Sindori. And the moment Void Elves came out, I was excited because I was like, it was one step closer to being able to actually play a Quel'Dorei, even though they weren't quite there yet. Not until the new customizations came out. It was such a fun swap to be able to go from playing a Sindori regularly to then being able to be more immersed on the Quel'Dorei side and be able to actually represent my character that I'd had in my head for years in the actual game.
Yeah, no doubt. Once
So
those customizations came in, everyone was super excited. You didn't have to like mirror image yourself anymore to like a high elf NPC or something to look how you wanted to. You finally were able to
oh my
do it.
god. The Orb of the Sindori was a constant. I remember farming that on every single alt that I had to at the time.
Oh, no doubt the farming must have been very intense. Now, it sounds like from everything you've said that there's a lot of passion there for the high elf. So please expand on what makes you so passionate about the Quel'Dorei.
I It's silly, but I've just always enjoyed playing the game. For me, growing up with the game was just my way of keeping in contact, one with friends, with family. I would play with my family growing up. And the Quel'Dorei were always like that interesting aspect that I had where it was like I loved the Sindori was what my family all played, and the Quel'Dorei were my own little personal like I really want this. Like I want this character. I want to be able to be, one of those high elves that was not because I always loved the Alliance a little bit more when I was younger. Don't get me wrong, I had my love for the Horde definitely swapped over for a long time, but I always did love playing the Alliance as well. And the Quel'Dorei to me were always a huge embodiment of that alliance because they were um, the allies that stayed, and it was just always so interesting to me to see their storylines kind of littered throughout. Because you'd be doing a quest, and then all of a sudden there was just this like little indication about the Quel'Dorei or about an old past to what the Sindori were before, the fall of Silver Moon. And it would be this little blip of information that I would just immediately yoink out of the game and be like, I used to keep a Word document of every little bit of information that would like pop up so I could start like compiling it and to make better backgrounds for my characters based on these pieces of lore that we would get.
Yeah, because we wouldn't get much, right? So I'm sure every little tidbit that you could get, you were like, ooh, okay, this is going to help me even more with the development of this character that I want to do, and like the fascination for
Yes.
the high elves, and just all that little research, right?
Yeah, it was always so much fun when you'd like see that piece of lore that connected. And then it was like, well, this is like always like, especially when it fits like this idea that I had in my head for my character, I would be able to then tie it back to this lore, like just this tiny little piece. And I was like, it was always the best feeling.
No doubt with that, it's like always that great feeling because like when you're so excited about something, especially in the game, like lore wise, whether it's like a race or just a class or a little bit of tidbit of like the history and everything, and then you finally get that one niche thing that you like and you see it pop up, you're like, oh my god, finally, like it's there. Ugh.
It was, yeah, it's just like that perfect moment of this works, this fits, and
Mhm.
it's great.
It is always great to get that stuff, and then, it's been really awesome to hear how passionate you are about the high elves. I'm gonna jump in with our next question here for the classes. So if they could be any class that they aren't already, it doesn't have to be World of Warcraft class. It could be from a tabletop roleplay game, MMO, JRPG, etc. What kind of class would you like to see them get?
You probably get this answer so much. I am 100% one of the people that want to see a druid. I would love to see druid high elves. I think it would be a fantastic class for them.
Druids is the popular pick. That tends to be what we hear the most, and I can never be like unagreeable about it because I just want to see what forms you guys would immediately get, right? That's what everybody wants. What kind of custom druid forms are you going to get? How are they going to tie it into this specific race, etc.? Any
I
forms you would
love
like to see them get?
I would love to be able to see the lynxes. Like especially the newer model lynxes, that would be phenomenal. I will say in more recent times though, I've actually been leaning almost a little bit more towards the paladins too. Because I still think seeing a high elf paladin would be awesome, especially with just the slight difference in the Quel'Dorei versus the Sindorei. Like just being able to see like obviously the same light wielding and everything, but I still think it would be another fun class to see alongside the druid.
Yeah, there would
Because
be a
I
different
know the druid's
way.
the popular one.
Yeah, I mean, Paladin and Druid tend to be the two popular ones, but there would definitely be a different way in which I would imagine the like high elves would go about being paladins because they wouldn't just hop into like the Blood Knights. That's a very like Sindori thing, right? So I'm sure that they would have
Right.
their own whole knightly order aspect of it and a different way of going about their worship and reverence of the light. Um, so
That's my
yeah.
curiosity. I'm like, I'd want to see exactly how they would do that because they'd have to be different from the Blood Knights and from the like just the way that the Blood Knights act and move and everything and the way they worship the light versus, I would love to see the cosmetics and things that would have to be done for a high elf paladin.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And throughout the history of WoW, we've obviously known about the high elves for a while because that's like the blood elves used to be high elves and then the whole like schism happened, right?
Mm,
So of all the high elf lore characters that we have, who is your favorite lore character?
it's a controversial one for me because my absolute favorite was always Verisa. Obviously the Windrunner sisters were huge and were like so super well known and like they had so much story behind them, but I loved Verisa until a certain quest line in Dalaran. She's still my favorite. I like that they're doing with her and the this midnight expansion brought back, I guess, part of that quest line for her. Um, just that little blip of remembering those that were lost in Dalaran when she and Jaina did what they did. And then just seeing this new quest line in Midnight where it's been kind of stepping forward, accepting that and basically putting it to rest by taking like accountant. Like it's been really nice seeing that progress with her. And obviously I'm obsessed with the new model updates and everything with her and I've just been very, very happy with where they've gone with her.
Yeah, you must be very ecstatic to like see her actually in a like how do I put it, modern part of the game and like a relevant part of the game and not just
Oh
like
my
tucked away
gosh.
in Dalaran or somewhere, like,
Tucked away in Dalaran. I was ecstatic when they had her in Pandaria for just the briefest moment.
true, yeah.
Um, and just to see her like it's been like nothing until now. And there's like this really big step of it. I mean, we saw her a little bit during Legion and everything, but now to have her more in a like front facing role, especially after everything with Sylvanas and then with her other sister Illyria, like it's so much cooler to see her now kind of get a little bit of that light that everybody else got.
Yeah, it is really cool to see. I mean, the whole Windrunner family is kind of like front and center of this expansion, which is going
Yeah.
to be interesting with this next patch to see where it all goes. But with that being said, I'm going to move on to our race rep specific question for the Quel'Dorei, which is Quel'Dorei can be an interesting middle ground between the factions, but sometimes they get caught in the middle of conflict and it requires careful mediation. Imagine characters at dinner with Ramoth and Umbric and they start throwing food at each other. How would your character resolve the situation?
So my character is a gremlin. I think she would be one of the people that probably throws food at both at the same time and then blames it on the other and probably makes the situation 10 times worse with a food fight.
Just throws it at each other, points, and like they did it, and then just sips her wine.
Absolutely. She's probably instigating more of the food fight. She's also probably the one to slip out the back door before the food fight ends so that she doesn't get held accountable to clean it up.
10 out of 10. Amazing answer. I love that so much. Oh, well, Elisira, thank you so much for doing this interview, and I hope that you have a great Tournament of Ages.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Pandaren Race Rep interview. I'm here with our Pandaren Race Rep. Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and please introduce yourself.
I am the player of Mingwei Lastblade. I've been around the horror community for, I want to say, a little over 3 years, and I started with this Pandaren, and I've just kept going with it consistently because I love the dynamic of the Hojin and their involvement with just the wider community and the dynamics that we have spread out across Moonguard and Wormrest.
So it sounds like from your intro, you're already dipping into reasons why you chose Pandaren. So why don't you expand on that and tell us what made
Oh,
you choose Pandaren?
well, Pandaren have a lot of very interesting lore. Their homeland is obviously extremely beautiful. Anybody who's played MOP, on release, that stuff was chef's kiss. It was beautiful. That being said, we haven't gotten a lot of love in a while, but as a consequence of that, we're all very open ended. So, Pandaren by nature are inquisitive and explorative, and I feel like that allows people to reach kind of like further out with their character concepts than like some other races, which might be a little bit more constrained. So having an explorer, having a soldier, having like a arcanist, stuff like that are all extremely viable avenues that you can have for your Pandaren character. So if you get 5 Pandaren in a room, chances are pretty slim that all of them have the same story to tell.
So what you're saying is you're gonna get 5 Pandaren in the room, and they're all gonna be Mistweaver monks. Oh yeah.
Maybe not this season, but
Yeah, not this season, unfortunately. I'm just the solo one. But Pandaren are awesome, like you were saying. People, if you haven't read it, go read Vol'jin, Shadows of the Horde. You learn a lot
Mhm.
about Pandaren and Pandaren culture in that book. I know it's like titled Vol'jin, but trust me, there's a lot of different perspectives, a lot of stuff like that you learn about the differences between like the Tushui and the Hojin Pandaren and like their um philosophies. That's the word I'm looking for. I was going to say like mentality, but philosophy. And there's a lot of kicking characters, man. Like G Firepaw, one of my favorite characters. You got I forget his name. He's from the Wandering Isle and he carries around the giant jade totem.
Oh my god.
He like wants to break everything because he's the strongest panda.
Yeah, he just got like a upgrade recently. Like his transmog is new. Oh my god, because of the
yeah.
Heritage Quest. I know who you're talking about though.
Yeah.
Damn.
But I'm gonna let you continue to tell us what makes you so passionate about Pandaren, because already I could tell that there's a lot of amazing stuff to come. So please expand on it for us.
Well, I'm not going to keep you here all night, but I will say that if you point to any single aspect of Pandaria or Pandaren history, Pandaren culture, or I mean, if you introduce me to a clutter of Pandaren players, I'll probably find 101 ways to appreciate them. So, you know, coming from like a horde perspective, mostly, right? Like you have the Hosian and their like act first, think later, right? Kind of mentality where, as you guys probably know from the Wandering Isle intro quest, G Firepaw, he gets that stuff done. He is the guy going out there smacking hosing around. He's the guy who sets up the bomb to get the ship off the turtle, despite everyone else kind of humming and hawing. And there were consequences, but he kept acting, doing things to try to make anything as right as he possibly could. And I feel like that is just one facet of like all of the unique perspectives. Because if you look at the Tushri side, you'll see that they're more balanced, more meditative, they're more focused. And if you find advancements in Pandaren culture or Pandaren, history and current events, they're probably being calculatively set forward by the Tushui Pandaren for the most part. But if you look at the battlefield side of things, if you look at where all the cool explosions are, you're probably going to find a bunch of red tabards. So if you narrow it down in any single capacity, I think as far as Pandaria, as far as Pandaren goes, it's all gems the whole way across, paved and it's just peak cinema. You know what I'm saying? So
And there is a lot of peakness about the Pandarans and their lore and just all the aspects. Like I was saying in the book, in Vol'jin's book, the Alliance main character, whose POV you see from, is described more as like a Hojin, and Vol'jin's described more as like a Tushui. So it's like kind of tossing it around. And then reading that book, you kind of learn what the mainland Pandaren think about the Wandering Isle Pandaren. This old lady straight up calls Chen Stormstout a wild dog. And it's like, that's crazy. But
Yep.
what you were talking about G is like one of the reasons why I liked him a lot in the starting zone and throughout the lore, because like he gets it done, and even if there's consequences, he owns up to those consequences and tries to find a way to get past them and fix them. Whereas like Asa like takes forever to like think about stuff and then judges the absolute heck out of you. Like I feel so bad for G after the explosion, and she just like turns around and leaves him, and he's just like heartbroken. No.
It's interesting about that too, because if you look at the quests you do with G and you look at the quests you do with Asa, like Asa has you protecting her while she meditates. She has you walking around kind of like a monk training area, like doing the various like temple things and like sitting down and focusing and like learning more about yourself and more about the land. But then you look at G Firepaw, and he's like, grab this fireworks cannon, we're going straight to the Hosen camp, because like we're not going to let these guys like like mess up the town. And like you go in there and the quest is literally like kill like 30 Hosen. It's awesome. And then the whole dynamic, like it's no one is better than the other. It's never been like that. And the Hosian and Tushri philosophies, and as well the Celestials, by extension to the mainland, they've all been like on par, equal with each other, different philosophies and schools of thought. Like the Hosian is primarily a horde dominant kind of like, practitioners and stuff like that. But it's by no stretch of the imagination only for the horde, right? As much as like my character might disagree with you, right? It's a frame of mind, much like the Celestials themselves, the big talking glowing animals. They are philosophers, right? And I feel like Pandaria is about, or not Pandaria, but Pandaren, and I guess Pandaria as well, are about focusing on the balance between oneself and their effect on history and the land and the ones around them. So, and that's always like such a strong message that never really seems to dissipate. Like it's consistent. Like even if you go up in the war within like random Pandaren who are just like in the Explorers League or whatever, like they're doing like they're doing it right, lore walking, like stuff like that. They're fulfilling their own personal goals, their own personal values are being met, and that's something that's like powerfully within each Pandaren, right? As they depart from their points of origin, Wandering Isle or the mainland, to explore and impact upon Azeroth.
Right, like they're not all just leaving to leave. They're leaving to find like a sense of self, a purpose, to fulfill a goal, reach a certain peak of like philosophical mentality or being. And like I feel like a lot of people forget that the Celestials are more than just wild gods. Like they're teachers. They're
Yeah.
imparting wisdom onto the Pandaren via their different schools of thought and teaching, right? And like a lot of people just see big glowing animals and just think they're like aspects, but they're like wild
Yeah.
gods that are deeply rooted in Azeroth's like being and Pandaren culture and how they think and how they feel and how they act. Pandaria is a very like emotional place, a very like zen place,
It's a
and
living, breathing continent. You
yeah,
know.
exactly. Much like how like mainland is living, breathing like continent because the Shaw can manifest and everything, and then you have like the Wandering Isle, which is actually a living, breathing place, right? So, despite them being from two different like islands, a lot of them share the same thoughts and philosophies and like aspects.
Mhm.
But um, with that being said, there's a lot of things that they could still learn throughout Azeroth, being different ways of combat or healing or all that sort of stuff in the form of classes. So, if the Pandaren could be any class that they don't already have, it doesn't have to just be from World of Warcraft. It could be from any TTRPG, MMORPG, JRPG, anything like that. What class would you like them to get next?
Paladins. Paladins, 100% paladins. I said this last time. I'll say it every single time anybody asks me. Pandas need paladin super bad. And even if it's like, it's been 13 years since MOP. Feasibly, I believe that Pandaren could do anything. The potential is limitless, right? But paladins, 100%. Even if it's like rooted in celestial kind of like belief systems as opposed to the light. But there's no necessity to exclude Pandaren from light worship, and zealotry and stuff like that at all. So I believe Pandaren are long overdue for Paladin, though my second place choice would be Druid. Though I'm not as passionate about Druid as I am about Paladin. Give us Paladin, please.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Pandarans already have priests. I'm not entirely sure what the lore is behind that, but I'm sure like the Pandaren that are on the Horde side probably would resonate with the Sunwalkers in some form and see Anshe as maybe another wild god, another aspect.
100%.
And then
100%.
like the Tushui Pandaren, I don't know, they could just follow the regular light, or maybe like the Ox aspect has like another path and they become paladins. There's like so many different ways that both faction Pandaren, I'm doing finger quotes here, can like get into that space. And it's been 13 years. You think there's not a Pandaren kicking around Stormwind or kicking around like Silvermoon that's like, this light stuff's pretty cool. These Pandaren, well, these paladins look awesome. Like, I want to go do that. You're telling me not one Pandaren has been like, no, that's all boring. Like, with
Yeah,
how
that's what I'm
they
saying.
work and how they think and how they feel, there's not a chance that not one of them has looked at a paladin and been like, yeah, that's what I want to be. They're like so enlightened and cool.
Yeah. I mean that's what I'm saying, because like we're in a light heavy expansion right now. Like
Literally.
Midnight is like there are paladins, like, blood elf paladins like marching in like their big, rattling armor down the streets of Silvermoon to go meet the threat of the void and like the harbinger and stuff like that. Like there's no way that that kind of like glowing like forefront soldiery is not contagious. Like that there's no way. Like somebody's going to pick up the hammer. Someone's gonna follow that path, even if it isn't in the traditional sense. So I feel as though, I mean, all classes should be paladins, but Pandaren, I want Pandaren paladins. That's all.
100% agreed. I would play it if we got it. And
Hmm.
speaking of Pandarans, we've mentioned several very cool and important lore characters, whether it's G, whether it's Asa, Chen, Iron Belly, or whatever his name is that we forget. Um, which Pandaren is your favorite lore character?
So we don't have a lot to choose from. um, who is that Pandaren like assassin? The one that like goes in the Rogues Guild when you're in Legion. Do you know what I'm talking about? Oh my god.
I know who you're talking about.
She's
I don't remember her
she's
name.
She is really cool. I know. I'm blank. I'm like, she's my favorite character. I don't even know what her fucking name is. But she is she is awesome because, and I didn't think this until the anniversary event, but then I started to notice she's everywhere. Like she was in the rafters during the anniversary. And I walked up to her and she's like just keeping things safe, like not celebrating, not talking to anybody. And then if you go to the Argentina right now, there's a chance that she's there and she's like talking to the other patrons and stuff like that about like how Azeroth is evolving and stuff like that. I think that she might be an underrated gem that a lot of us unfortunately have overlooked, as the main plot has featured Chen 1,000 times and Lorewalker Cho 1,001 times. But G Firepaw, I mean, obviously got to go with the goat. For like my second place pick, Asa Cloudsinger was my first ever like, oh, Pandaren are actually pretty cool because she was like, this badass like, kung fu master and stuff like that. And then, as I came to learn more and more and more and meet more of these characters in the story, I think I'm gonna lock my answer in on this assassin who I'm gathering the name of right now because
Tao
I feel bad.
Shi.
How
Tao
she, yes,
Shi. I
How she,
googled it while
100.
you were monologuing.
Thank you so much. Taoshi, the goat. Lily is like grown now, and I'm excited to see where her adventures are going to go.
Hopefully, we get
Because
a new
now
model for her.
we did a new model. Well, no, you mean like a brand new
Yeah,
model?
yeah, like an
Like,
updated,
yeah,
brand new one.
I doubt that, but maybe
Hey, we
it's
all
a.
said that about Dagran because he was just a little potato with a beard in Ironforge,
I
and now
love
look
the
at him.
I love the potato though. Oh, Dagran is so fun. But yeah, I fully agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I hope we get a new model for Lily. I more than that, I hope we get more adventures with her because like the Heritage Quest kind of led me to believe that we might be seeing more than just Chen walking around in this grand scheme of things. But
That
I'm
would be really cool.
locking in the assassin, so that's where I'm at.
There's even like that random Storm Stout in like the Draenei starting area who like we don't know anything about, but his name is Storm Stout, and you're like, are you're related to Chen, right? Like you got to be one of those Storm Stouts. Um,
Yeah.
but I digress. That's an entire other conversation. um, I'm gonna hit you now with our unique race rep specific Pandaren question, which
Sure.
is Pandaria has so many beautiful sights to see. What is your character's favorite place to go to admire the scenery in Pandaria?
My character's favorite place. Okay.
Or
That'd be
yours. You could do both.
there's two different answers. I guess I'll give mine. Mine is I like the Jade Forest. I love sitting on top of the coiling serpent, like that big statue that gets kind of wrecked in the story. Like I love sitting on top of that and like doing a 360 of the Jade Forest. The Timeless Isle as well. Good second place there. But my character likes the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. Sitting, even though it's all messed up, like in the game, I feel as though the natural beauty, and I actually went on Classic, like I grinded all the way through Classic to look at the Vale before Garrosh blew it up. And like it is a beautiful like golden kind of like expanse of like actual like tangible Pandaren history, and you could feel the weight of like how much this land actually like has been through, and like the beauty of and the turmoil of it kind of coexist there. It's not so destitute as the Dread Wastes or Townlong, though Townlong is very beautiful, and it's not so peaceful and like fantastic as the Jade Forest or Crasserang. So I think my character Mingwei Last Blade, she likes the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, 100%. Maybe looking at the gigantic Mogu statues in their like state of disrepair, or going to the Lore Walkers kind of library up there and like just seeing for scale, even if you don't crack open any of the scrolls, this sheer quantity that has been recorded over the centuries, over the decades, whatever. Uh, it's all just so. It's an epicenter of breathtaking, tangible history. To mark that Pandaria has been a soulful, beating heart for Azeroth since its inception, even when the times were dark, when the Mogu were controlling, the land, as evidenced by the remnants of Mogu society all over the place. So that's my answer. I'm locking in right there.
Two very good answers. The Vale is one of my favorite places. It's you could tell that it's important right off the bat because you need permission for the gates to open for you to go into the Vale, and you just
Mhm.
feel like it's important and that it's a special place in Pandaren culture and like Pandaria as a whole. Um, for Jade Forest, Pearlfin Village, man, I'm a big fan
Well,
of that.
it's all about Srila and
True.
Honeydew.
Yeah,
Honeydew.
Honeydew.
Nothing beats the first peak at Pandaria when you're a horde player. You go to Honeydew Village. Nothing beats that little like getting the tigers and scooping up the barrels and helping out people. I love that.
I still think whoever named that village was a Yogscast fan and named it after Mr. Diggy Diggy Hole himself. But Mingwei, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. It's been awesome, and I hope you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And everybody have fun, celebrate, and meet as many new and interesting people as you can.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Volpira Horde Race Rep interview. I am here with our Volpira Race Rep. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I am Tizo. Well, simple things. I like playing Volpera. I like WoW. I've been playing it for since the Burning Crusade. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This is a really fun opportunity.
And this is going to be a fun interview, as they always are. So I'm going to...
Hopefully so.
Yeah, hopefully so. And I'm going to dive right into our first question, which is what made you choose Volpira as your race?
Mm-hmm. Right, well, obviously Volpera is a race that's come out quite a lot later from when I started playing, and I bounced between races. My first ever character was a dwarf priest, and then I've tried pretty much everything, but going through Battle for Azeroth, I really enjoyed the Voltron zone. I found the quest lines really fun, the lore of the race and what you got to see through their personalities and such, really enjoyable. Before Volpera came out, I even used rogue prisons to roleplay as one by pickpocketing an NPC in Freehold. Yeah, it's the potential for storylines that people can overlook by just saying, "Oh, they're just cute little race," but when you actually dive in, I think they can be a really fun exploration onto a lot of interesting concepts, stuff like family and like the psychology of a race that's got quite a lot of strife in their background. So yeah, that's what drew me to them mostly.
Dolly and Dot are my best friends.
I mean, that is also like a valid point. Like, I think playing a cute character who can then tank a giant monster, and that surprising people by saying, "Oh, look, they're so cute," and then have a character who is not exactly that is really fun. So yeah, I like playing off both sides of it.
Yeah, and I mean, Vol'dun was one of my favorite zones in like Zandalar. Out of all of them, I enjoyed the desert. I enjoyed the quest lines with the Volpira, going around on the wagon and doing all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you see like a lot of the strife right away continuing with the Alliance just immediately going after these little guys. But it sounds like there was a lot of passion behind your reasoning and like what made you want to pick Volpira and choose Volpira. So why don't you kind of expand more for us on what made or makes you so passionate about the Volpira?
Yeah. So like as I said, going through it, the quest lines, you got to see a species that were really downtrodden. They were put into this really crappy part of the world where the Zandalari were sent to exile. Like, they live in the punishment area, and even then they are attacked and enslaved by the Sephrak. And despite all of that, they are still keeping smiles. They are still keeping that community, and they are still looking out for each other. That sort of tenacity and willpower, that's something that I think is really fun to role play through. And I just really enjoyed the having a character who, with so many people who, so many storylines recent at the time where people were downtrodden and struggling, and there was so much war and strife, and at the time Teldrassil had just been burned. Having someone who, despite all of that, was still standing up and continuing on, that's a archetype that I've always really enjoyed, and it felt like I could expand on that and explore it more with Volpera. So I think that's one of the reasons. Plus, of course, I think everyone who does play Volpera likes them because they are cute fox people. So that's also an aspect.
The cute fox people definitely helps, but I think it is like something you said where despite like all this hardship that's on them, enslaved by the Sethrak, they're living in like the not great part of Zandalar. The Alliance attacked them. They still have that like willpower, that drive, that like want to be free and like have a community and just be awesome and live their lives, right? Like they want that sense of freedom, they want that sense of self, and they have that driving nature. And they're the underdogs, right? I mean, in the entire story.
I mean, I completely agree with that. It's fun to play a character who's punching above the belt, as it were, in multiple senses.
Yeah, it's always fun to be the shorter character that gets to beat up the big guy. You know, I've role played a dwarf forever, and always fighting the taller dudes has been fun. Like going after the giant trolls or giant stone golems or like machinations of war. You're just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's fun to have a character who faces that struggle and overcomes it. That's a core of what makes stories interesting.
It really does. And one thing that makes the Volpira interesting is during the Vol'dun questline and like the caravans, you kind of see the mixed combat with like alchemy in some like ways, right? With the whole caravan moving along, throwing the potions, fighting, using all that sort of stuff. So seeing that kind of makes you think, right? Of maybe like Volpira could get their own type of class. So if the Volpira could have any class, it doesn't have to be from World of Warcraft, it could be from any tabletop roleplay game, any MMORPG, anything like that, what class would you like them to get?
Ooh, I'd never thought of the concept of having a character that focuses so much on sort of this scrappy survivalist bag of tricks style of thing. I know that that's a racial ability here, but it could be interesting to expand on what you said there for every race to get their own unique class, like how Drakthir have evokers. I could definitely see Volpira getting something to do with that and cobbling together sort of things they've found and old cursed relics and stuff, and sort of like a darkest dungeon antiquarian style character. Of the base classes, I like how close they are to Zandalar and the ties with the lower that they can have sometimes. So I think that a paladin who, quite like the Zandalari prelates, are connected to the lower, that Volpira could also quite easily and justifiably have that. But yeah, quite a few interesting things. I feel like Volpira are widespread enough to really be anything at this point.
There is a lot of opportunity, and it would be pretty cool to just like have this epic battle happening, and then all of a sudden you just see like this Volpira full in plate with just like wings popping out of nowhere with a hammer and shield. Like that would be epic.
Yeah, like in the ideal WoW 2, everything goes crazy budget wise, having big sandy wings and riding along on a hyena or a Krolus or something. That'd be awesome.
Would be pretty epic, and like their own kind of unique racial class could be like a survivalist in a sense, where they just, like you said, cobble together a bunch of things and do what they have to do to survive, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. That could be really fun, and you've made me potentially plan out a new character with that now.
I love to hear it. That's what I like. So Volpira are, I want to say, relatively still new, but not really, because I mean BFA has come and gone a while now. It's kind of scary to think at times how long ago BFA was.
Yeah. It's the last expansion. What do you mean?
Yeah. But out of all the Volpira characters, I don't know if there's really many that we've been introduced to apart from in Vol'dun and like some side characters that pop up here and there. But out of all the Volpira lore characters, which one is your favorite?
Yeah, I feel like, as you said, we've not had many newly introduced, but we've had some of the same ones pop up a few times again. I think the only Volpira, unless I'm wrong, and I'm sure, I'm happy to be reminded of who I'm forgetting, but the only Volpera that's recently been added wasn't even a Volpera, it was the visage of the Major Dormu back in Dragonflight. But characters like Nisha, who is the freedom fighter with the Sephrak skull, are fun. I like how she, even in recent depictions, is still wearing that skull, still obsessed with, hey, this represents me being free and fighting against my presence. I'm still going to wear this even though there's no reason for me to do it. And of course, I think Mira, the Dolly and Dot singing Volpera, is near and dear to pretty much everyone's heart to like Volpera. Or on the flip side are, oh my gosh, she's so annoying, like how some characters react to her.
I think all of those are great choices. And whoever thinks that that Volpera that sings Dolly and Does My Best Friend is annoying, I'm going to have a serious chat with them after this. They are one of my favorites. But Misha's great. I mean, we see Misha in the Argentina, I believe, right? For one of the stories. But this brings me to the unique final question of the interview that is Volpera specific. Are you ready?
I am ready.
The Volpera are quite friendly, helpful, and they are renowned for traveling with alpacas. Imagine that your Volpera has a friend who's decided to name their alpaca something awful, like Horde Destroyer 9000. How would your Volpera go about telling their friend that their alpaca needs a new name?
So, this is a interesting question because Tizo does have a friend who is an alpaca rancher, and there are some names that are borderline that, but also cute. There's names like Sherby Wob, Tom Gobo, Son of Bert. I feel like it is a case of, okay, clearly you have a lot of passion for this alpaca. You love this animal a lot. Like maybe another name might be cute, but if this is what you want to, and this is what you're passionate about, I'm not going to stop you. So I think Tizo would be, laughingly say, okay, this is maybe you want to reconsider, but not try to push the issue because obviously this is a name they were excited about.
Honestly, very fair. And Son of Bert, shout out. Great answer, right? Like,
thank you. I need to make
any
sure
name
that I
truly
get
wrong, like,
exactly.
there are a lot of wrong names out there, but hey, if you want to name your alpaca Son of Bert, that's your prerogative, Like,
I need to make sure I find a alpaca non-combat pet and one of the battle pets, and have Son of Bert come with me to Tournament of Ages.
Yes, bring Son of Bert to the tournament grounds. We'll be looking for them.
For sure. Sure.
That is awesome. Well, Tizo, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview and for joining me. And I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Horde Orc Race Rep interviews. I am here with our Orc Race Rep. Hello, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Sapphire. I play Grand Sharuk. She's an orc. And she waves.
She is big, tall, green, and an orc who does wave. I just saw it. Well, thank you for signing up as our race rep for this year's Tournament of Ages. We are very happy to have you. And with that, I'm going to just jump into the first question. What made you choose orc as your race?
For me, I wanted to explore this archetype that I don't see commonly represented. I see a lot of in the lore orc warriors, orc shamans, orc warlocks. I haven't seen any orc mages. It's typically more of an ogre thing. So that has been my primary motivation for being an orc, is to explore this specific archetype.
It is a very rare one to see. There are not a lot of orcs, at least from my recollection, that are mages throughout the story. So it is good to see someone playing something that's, new and fresh.
Yeah, it's really been interesting.
Well, I'm going to let you continue to tell us how interesting it's been by telling us what makes you so passionate about orcs.
The thing I really like about orcs is I haven't seen orcs done like this until I played Warcraft. I've never seen an orc be a space invader. I've never seen them have these different cultures depending on what clan the orc is from. I just really like how you can be a completely different orc depending on your background, where you're from, and what planet you were born on. It just gives you so much freedom of exploration to be an orc.
It is quite an interesting background for fantasy orcs. We do have
Mhm.
the same kind of thing with the orcs in Warhammer 40k, where they're spacefaring orcs in
Yeah.
multiple clans and everything. But in World of Warcraft, we're not trading teeths and fighting with the boys. You know, we're Zug
Yeah.
Zug and blood and honor and for the horde. You know, so they share that in similar aspects, but in like low fantasy, I guess, or high fantasy, whatever you want to call WoW. Um, this is definitely different from other fantasy genres, right? So like orcs and Lord of the Rings aren't the same as World of Warcraft, so it is pretty cool to see how there's like that distinct flavor and everything.
Yeah, and I will say that even if they do follow like the same fantasy archetypes, like you can expect an orc to have tusks and be green. I still like that we have these kind of beloved archetypes that we're used to, and we have something a little bit different at the same time.
Exactly. There's a lot to like take and add to our characters and mess around with, a lot of different things
Yeah.
that we can do, directions to go. Um Now you're playing an orc mage, which I think in-game lore and then in actual game is probably one of the class race combos we don't see that much of. But
Mhm.
if the orcs could have any class from World of Warcraft or any other fantasy genre, MMO, anything like that, what class would you like them to have?
I think it would be really interesting if they got Paladin. Because, first of all, I think the original human paladins would probably think that is like the worst thing ever, which is delightful to me. And second off, I think that the Horde has been around long enough, and we've had the Blood Knights, we've had the Sunwalkers, we've had all these different Horde paladins. I think at some point an orc would go, hey, I want to be like the Blood Knights. I want to be like the Sunwalkers. I think my character has that sort of confidence in herself, and she's got that martial prowess where she'd be a good paladin. And it's not out of, it's, or I don't know, I probably could have cut this part out, but it's not so far out of, man, I'm trying to find the right like term to say this. I don't know, you can cut me out like here
It's
when I'm
not
trying to.
a reach, like it's not a stretch,
Yeah,
right?
it's not a
And
reach.
we've
Yeah, like they've been in the Horde for long enough. We've had lots of Horde paladins, and I'll go train some orcs. I'm sure they'd be great at it.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen orcs wield the light in other universes, like in Draenor and stuff like that. As much people
Right.
don't want to bring it up,
Yeah.
that is a thing that has happened. And hey, why not give Trallian one more thing to be grumpy and angry and old man at? Because he's like the last OG human paladin left out of all the OG human paladins at this point. So
Yeah, I think he'd have a heart attack, but he'll get over it. He's lived long enough.
yeah, he's like a couple thousand years old. He'll be fine.
Yeah. Hey, we're getting attacked by the void. Just give the orcs some light. I'm sure they'd really go at the void.
It's a good weapon to
They do
have
good.
against the void.
Yeah, they do a good job.
Exactly. And orcs versus humans is like the root of World of Warcraft, right? So orcs have been
Right.
in the World of Warcraft or Warcraft um, canon lore, whatever you want to call it, for as long as it's been a thing, which means there's a lot of orc characters. Out of
Mhm.
all of the orc characters we have, who is your favorite lore character?
I want to say Grom Hellscream from the alternate Draenor. I really like that. So we know from the main timeline, Draenor ultimately falls apart because of all the portals that got set up there, and now it's kind of home to a bunch of demons. It's going to completely collapse one day. But the alternate Draenor avoided this fate, at least in the it's not overrun with demons. It's still going to have the same fate, it looks like. I think it's going to end up falling to the light and not fell. I just really like the part of the story where Grom does avoid his main universe self's fate, but it still comes back at him, but just in a different way, if you think about it. Because the main universe, Grom sacrifices himself to save his people. And in the alternate universe, Grom sacrifices himself to save his people. It happens in a little bit different of a way, but I just like the aspect of the story where this history repeats itself, and even though they kind of seemingly avoided their fate, it still finds them. That's what I find really compelling about it, and that's what I like about alternate universe Mr. Grom.
Yeah, AU Grom was, just as awesome as his main universe counterpart in many ways, but they're also different in many
Mhm.
ways, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, seeing all those cinematics with him, freeing him from Hellfire Citadel, all that during the WAD period really like lit a fire under people, and we were like, "This is great." Um, but yeah, then what happened? But I think that's a great pick, and I haven't heard anyone pick any alternate universe characters yet, so that's definitely a first.
Okay. Glad to be unique, you know?
Hey, we're all unique in our own ways. And
I like
speaking of,
Thrall too, you know?
there you go.
Sorry, I cut you off.
Thrall Hall. Speaking of being unique, this brings us to our unique race rep question that I do at the end of the interview. So this is the orc specific question. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
The orcish clans of Draenor were tricked by Gul'dan into drinking the blood of Manaroth, but that isn't everyone's drink of choice. What is your orc's go-to drink of choice?
I wish I had it on me, but I usually carry around those, those prop simple cups. Oh my gosh, I might have one in my
Yeah,
work at,
the
but
tankard of terrors and all that stuff.
yeah, like I'm in love with RP props, so I always have like the Kaffa cup. Or I imagine that is what my character would drink, just a bunch of Kaffa.
Keep
I do
themselves
not.
out.
Yeah, like I don't think you should drink Kaffa that comes from a demon. I would advise against it.
Yeah, not a good idea. You kind of go crazy and get like possessed, basically.
Yeah, it probably has too much caffeine in it.
Yeah, probably. You go on like those caffeine highs and just go crazy. Well, Gran Sharuk, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me, and I hope you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Oh, thank you. It was so lovely to be here. Now, I do want to say real quick that the reason I signed up is because I was very inspired by the speeches at the Coast Shark this year, and that's like a little orc cultural festival RP event. And I saw that the speech that inspired me was actually the same speech of last year's orc representative. So it came full circle in a way. So thank you, last year's orc representative, for being an inspiration. And it was very nice to be here.
We love to see it, and thank you once again for doing this interview.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Forsaken Race Rep interview. Hello, welcome. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ethelstan Creed of the Forsaken, and I'm in the Grave Watch.
Welcome, welcome, Athelstan. So let's jump right into the questions. What made you choose Forsaken as your race?
So I chose Forsaken as my race because as a kid, I played Warcraft 3 with my uncle, and I got to play through the whole story, with Arthas, his downfall. And when World of Warcraft came out, it was like, hey, you can be the Forsaken, the people that Arthas killed. And I'm like, oh, I could be the Scourge. I could be the people that got liberated, the guys who killed Garithos, all of that. And it was just like, let's go for it. Undead time it is.
Undead time indeed. I still haven't played the original Warcraft games, and every time I hear about it, it just makes me want to play it. So after this, I might have to go and play through the games.
Highly recommended. It's peak storytelling. You fall in love with the lore. You just fall in love with the characters. Recommend it enough. And honestly, it could inspire you to make a new character, do something. One of my favorite things to do is I'll use a cheat code. I think it's called Who's Your Daddy? It makes you invincible. And I'll just pick a random unit and I'll be like, that's my character. This is what he was doing during that time.
That is pretty cool. Not gonna lie, I would definitely have to do that. It
It,
sounds
it's
like it was a lot of fun playing those games.
it completely enjoyable. And then going through and with Classic coming back, like big thing with it is like when you go back and play through Classic, read through the quest text because that's your meat of your character. That's the meat of the lore that you can put into your character. And it's one of the most fun things that you can do. And I know people don't want to RP in Classic. RP with yourself. Build your character up through Classic. What were they doing during that time?
100% an important thing to do. Not enough people read quest text, especially now. Everyone just wants to get to end game and raid it out.
And you're missing the lore. You're missing the lore. And it's like you don't have to watch all these lore videos if you learn to read.
Exactly. So it sounds like playing these older Warcraft games is kind of something that maybe brought your passion into the Forsaken. So why don't you expand on what makes you so passionate about the Forsaken?
The best way to put it, everybody loves a good bad guy. Right now, with Forsaken writing, we're just gray humans. We are gray humans who are gaunt. We got flimsy limbs and no chiropractor. But going back and you're reading the rise up through the scourge, even going back to with like the old Forsaken opening, you're like, you joined the Horde as an alliance of convenience. You need to uphold the new Forsaken order, living undead or otherwise. And you got to live by that because it's like we're good bad guys. We're necessary evil. And expanding on that, it's like you do what you must for your people, be loyal to the Forsaken and Forsaken only.
Very, very true. And like, chiropractor and everything aside, at least you have elbows now.
Yeah, right? Right? Now I don't have just these weird bonies boys sticking out of everything, breaking my immersion with my mod.
So true. That's one of my favorite parts of like the Forsaken starting zone is when you're talking to the like newly raised, I think it's Baron Redpath, and he's like, I'm gonna go make my own Forsaken with elbows, and then just like struts away.
Just rage leaves, and then there's the one guy who's like, these aren't my hands. These aren't my hands.
Yeah, there's a lot of freaking out, which I mean is understandable, and I completely agree about the everybody loves a good bad guy because I mean, Kael'thas, Arthas,
Oh,
loved bad guys, right? Like deeply
like
beloved
like
characters.
a Garrosh,
Garrosh,
fantastic bad
yes.
guy. And I know they cut it out, but personally, it's like when he called Sylvanas a
Mm-hmm.
bitch and Silverfine, I'm like peak writing. Like, and she was so cunty after, just being like,
Yeah.
"I serve the Horde," and I'm like, "Oh yes,
That was honestly peak, and
serve for serve."
it did make me upset when they took it out. I understand why, because they're trying to make it more like PG, so they don't want like stuff like that in. But that honestly was like perfect writing for like just the cheekiest convo between those two characters.
And when you go back and you read like the lore between them, like why was she attacking Gilneas? Oh, Garrosh was throwing bodies of Forsaken against the wall to break it.
Yeah. That's Garrosh for you.
Yep, love him or hate him, man was cool.
Man was cool. This is true. Now, what Blizzard is kind of doing with the game is they're starting to introduce more playable class race combinations, which leads me to my next question. If your race could be any class, which class would you want them to be or have?
So obviously this is gonna be it. Necromancer. We have the whole guy with Gunther's Island back then, the one Forsaken to break away from the Scourge on his own free will, and he's just like, I didn't join the Forsaken because I thought y'all were mindless Scourge.
I don't think I know of this. Care to expand a little bit?
So I think his name is Gunther Uranus. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while, but he was a Forsaken NPC who has this little island off of, let me see here, the Brightwater Lake, and you do a quest for him to be like, hey, we're not crazy, we're not Scourge, we kind of broke away and we could use your help. He was a mage so powerful, he was classified as a lich, but he's just a Forsaken model.
Huh.
And with that, it's like we have a guy who could train Forsaken to be necromancers. And going from there, it's like I want a necromancer class that isn't just summon, pet, go out and battle like a warlock. I want them to be able to, do tame undead like the DK ability where but instead you get this undead forever like a hunter.
I like everything about this, and I think Necromancer, this is the first time I've heard anyone mention it, and there's like so many Necromancers in game and within lore. So it'd be really cool to like see them implement that in like a class mechanic, right? And see what like abilities we get, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's like we have Maldraxxus. We can go tame a cool undead out there, or we could come here to Northrend, where TOA is based, and let me go tame a Sonland. Let me go tame a classic Scourge champion, which I've always wanted for my Death Knight.
Yes, that would be epic.
Like how come Thessarian can get Lurid, but I can't get Goose Moocher, the Scourge champion?
Goose Moocher, the Scourge champion. Free Goose Moocher, guys.
Free Goose Moocher, please. Hashtag Goose Mooch.
Now, Forsaken have been in lore and in game for a long time. Like they obviously predate the World of Warcraft, like our MMORPG that we're playing now. Out of your race's lore characters, who is your favorite?
I gotta give it to the big dog, Apothecary Putris. Perfect voice acting. Wrathgate is the best cinematic. I know IK Edit did a remaster of it, and I love that to death, but he just comes out serving the best lines ever. Like when he hits you with the, did you think we have forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? And then he's screaming death to the Scourge and death to the living after blighting everybody. Peak cinema.
Yeah, we just insert Scorsese gif, absolute cinema. Like
Absolute cinema.
That is an amazing cinematic and a great choice, honestly. And a first choice, I think, so far out of the several years that we've been doing this now. I don't think anyone's ever mentioned Putris, but Putris, throwback, great character, great lines. Oh,
And the voice acting, top notch, even for its day.
so very true, so very true. Now, this leads me to the last question of the interview. Now, this is one that you haven't seen beforehand, and it's another little silly slash serious question thrown in here that the amazing Ramona wrote for us. If the Forsaken decided to claim any city or town in all of Azeroth as their new capital city, what city would you want to see undeadified?
Can I throw you a curveball?
Go for it.
We want to reclaim the Forsaken Holy Land. Let's take Northrend as in its entirety. Let's take the whole
Yes.
continent. Northrend is the Forsaken Jerusalem. It's the Forsaken Unholy Land. It is the birth of the Scourge. And when Lordaeron becomes a living kingdom again, because that's the way it's going to go, we'll take Icecrown and we'll keep that frozen throne empty, just like we keep the throne of Taranis Menethil empty.
Love it. That would be absolutely amazing. And we're coming back to Northrend in the next expansion, right?
I'm so excited. So excited. I want to see what they're going to do with Grizzly Hills, Howling Fjord, what's going to happen with Utgard Pinnacle, and what's going to happen with the tournament grounds. Like, how much of an upgrade is TOA going to get when we come back to Northrend?
Hopefully, we still have the tournament grounds and Blizzard doesn't take them away. Just give us an updated one, please.
Just like they took my Death Home and my Dead Scar. I earned that. I built that.
So very true. They giveth and they taketh away, you know? That's the life of playing a Blizzard game.
Breaks my heart. Aethel did so much work during those times. He's like, come on, guys, why are you taking my masterpieces away?
So true. Well, Athelstan, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoy your Tournament of Ages.
Hey, thank you for having me, and I look forward to every moment of it and all the RP to come.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 Tournament of Ages Worgen Race Rep interview. I am here with Monty, who will be standing in for our Worgen Race Rep, Tiragor Botan. Monty, thank you for doing this. I'm going to jump into the first question for Tiragor, which was, what made you choose your race?
What made you choose your race? Tiragor says, honestly, I wanted to play a human-esque character, but I found base humans a bit too boring, so Worgen it was. A trite reason, perhaps, but he's developed into a complex character that I enjoy role-playing greatly.
Awesome. On to the next question. What makes you so passionate about this race?
Tiragor said, I don't know what I'm passionate about per se with any WoW race, but I appreciate Worgen due to their lore origins and role-playing the duality of their nature. Also, the at-will shape-shifting is pretty neat.
It is pretty neat indeed. If your race could be any class, which class would you be?
He says, if I could have only one class as a Worgen, if Nutty Professor doesn't become a class, then Warrior. I hope they get some claw attack animations in the future. So I think he more so means playing a warrior, but with your bare hands.
With like those cool Darius Crawley metal claws.
Yeah, Wolverine.
Yeah, literally. So, of your race, who's your favorite lore character?
Let's see. Tiragor says Halford Ramsey from the WoW comic Curse of the Worgen. He's a Worgen detective who is driven by logic and intellect and uses the strengths available in both sides of his race. I love Curse of the Worgen. That's a great comic.
I've never read it. I'm gonna have to look into it and get it. Finally, the race rep specific question. So this is the Worgen specific question. Sometimes Gilneans will accidentally shift into their Worgen form. How many declined in Mythic Plus applications would it take before your Worgen went into a Feral Rage?
Tiragor had a very interesting answer. Just baseline, not getting declined, but if it was a Molten Core Mythic Plus RP raid. I don't want to know what that means.
That is quite the answer indeed. Well, Monty, thank you so much for taking the time to read Tiragor's questions, and I hope that both you and Tiragor have a great Tournament of Ages.
You too.